Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 3 Point Weekly. It is post All Star break. It is post trade deadline for us. I know we've been vacant for a few weeks, but we are back and we are ready to give our biggest surprises of the NBA season as we head into the post All Star break, the back third of the season, as we get into the late push for the playoffs and the play in tournament. But before we do get to those biggest surprises, as you guys continue to show your great support as we've just now come back from our hiatus, if you haven't, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and do like the stream as you continue to tune in. And be sure to give us your biggest surprises as we get through these discussions. But we're going to jump right into it. We're going to get to the most surprising team in a positive sense so far this year. We're not going to put the hater caps on quite yet, but we'll give you a start, Gabe. Who's been the most surprising team to you so far that's been rising up the ranks?
You know, I think for this, I'm mostly West focused because you just look at the whole top of the West and it's like not what you would expect at all. There might have been some people, especially some fans of those teams, that might have expected them to be up there, but seeing Minnesota, Oklahoma City as the top two, and then even for me, the Clippers at three, all three of those, seeing that be the top of the West was very surprising to me. I was a notable Clipper hater last season, and then when they made the Harden trade, I was pretty negative on it. And I definitely did not expect it to work out. And they've been proving me wrong pretty much all season since the first couple games of that trade. So for them to be up there and actually be cemented as like a real title contender after this course, basically been together for like 4 or 5 years and just never hit that level. For them to finally hit their stride like this, that's been a pleasant surprise. And then those top two just both being young teams that really just broke out with young stars and kind of against the odds really went from like 7, 8 range. Oklahoma City wasn't even that high. They were in the play-in. And to go all the way to like Oklahoma City not even being in the play-in and all the way up top, and from Minnesota fighting through the play-in to not even being a middle seed but the very top of the conference, super impressive stuff. Like, if you asked me before the season, I'm saying my top three is probably like Denver, Lakers, Suns. So for it to be just none of those three at the top, shocking.
That's fair. Since you took two of my three teams that I wrote down, I'll go to the Eastern Conference. And look, one of our like last episodes before our little hiatus, I talked about we talked about like the Cavs and how they were dealing with a bunch of injuries. We didn't really know. We were talking about Donovan Mitchell trades. That's how like bad we thought it was about to go. And they've been the hottest team in basketball since then, and they're getting a little more healthy now. But man, like the ball that Donovan Mitchell has been playing since then has been MVP caliber, in my opinion. He's been one of the best players in basketball over this 19, 20 game stretch or however long it's been. Jared Allen was playing all-star level basketball. He was really looking like Jared Allen from a couple years ago where he was dominant on the boards, defensively, scoring the ball too. Look, I kind of thought like this was a defining stretch in maybe their future. Now there's still obviously some more stuff that has to be done, especially once we get to the postseason, because that's how we judge this team mainly, and that's how the the talks around Donovan Mitchell is going to be is how successful this team can be in the playoffs. But the ball that they've been playing, they've got guys that have been shooting well. Sam Morrell's been shooting well. Max Strus has been, stepping it up and getting healthy too with Darius Garland coming back, Mobley coming back. He's been playing really well offensively too. Surprising for me because I thought they were about to fall off a cliff. They were already kind of playing mediocre basketball those first few months. But man, they look like a team that in the East could maybe make a conference finals run. I think there's like maybe 3 teams right now as far as seeding goes that can make a deep run outside of the Celtics, and the Cavs are on that list for me. So they've been surprising mainly over like the last 20 or so games, but they've really picked it up lately.
I like those shows. Cavs and the Timberwolves were my 2 picks as well. Before I get into it, appreciate the support we're already seeing back in chat. Very appreciated. But yeah, Cavs were my primary shout I wanted to give here because I knew the Timberwolves were going to be picked and deservedly so. The way that the Cavs have been as good as they've been, despite the injuries, has been the biggest surprise to me. I didn't necessarily would have said that I would have been shocked by them if they were at this point in the season. within a regular season context if they didn't have Darius Garland injury, they didn't have Evan Mobley's injury. And even still, if this team was coming in playing better this year, I would have expected Max Strus's addition, although he's been very good, I would have expected his three-point shooting to be a lot more of a significant factor as to why they've been so good, despite the fact this has arguably been his worst three-point shooting season of his career. So the way that they've been so productive has been what's been surprising. Some of the adversity they've had to deal with, the fact that Donovan Mitchell has been as elite as he's been, not that him being elite is surprising, but like you say, Reed, the fact that he's borderline on the edge of some MVP conversations, he's been that good. The fact that Dean Wade's really emerged into being a valuable rotation guy from someone who was very much in and out of the rotation last year, although still limited volume. Okoro's been shooting the three much better. So it's been a lot of adversity and a lot of surprising players that have either performed in a positive or negative light that have made this a very surprising first 2/3 of the year for them.
Yeah, I thought that JB was about to be catching some like hot seat allegations, but after this stretch, just looking at them, I think they're still like a top 3 defense or something, and that's with only 30 games of Evan Mobley at a 53. Looking at the fact that he's missed like 2/5 of their games, it's really just Jared Allen and the rest of them doing a team effort. And then, you talked about Donovan Mitchell, Reek, and how he was playing at an MVP level. I don't want to do too much spoilers, but he was definitely on my short list of most surprising players, because for them to just be they're like a league average offense, but he's still going out there and just getting it done night in and night out. And that's with, like I said, 30 games of Evan Mobley on the defensive side. On the offensive side, Darius Garland's only played 29. So out of like their big 4 and their big 2 on offense, big 2 on defense, they've had one out on each side and have still just been able to get the job done. That's so impressive.
Yeah, great points. I think we were all kind of in that mindset that if this season doesn't get better, JB probably could have been a coach that might have been gone at some point during the year or definitely after the season was over. But the way they've been playing, like, his job seems safe, man. He finds a way. He just continues to find a way with this team, and got to give him a lot of credit because, I was pretty loud with the hate and we were all very concerned, but, he's got his act together and now the team's really playing well. And I'm excited to see what they can do. So some of the teams in the West that Gabe mentioned, like Minnesota, they were the top team on my list. But mainly because, like, before the season, I had them ranked low, but I was really like, I didn't really know like what their ceiling could possibly be, especially how we saw them play last year, even though there were a lot of injuries. But I'm just kind of concerned like how this all would work out. And even though the offense still hasn't really picked up, that defense is best in the league for a reason. Like, it's been great for a reason. Cat has really improved as this year has gone on. He started off very slow, but he's improved. Rudy Gobert, pretty much runaway defensive player of the year. Anthony Edwards continues to ascend his game as being a young superstar in this league. And they're supporting pieces, man. Like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's been playing well. Mike Conley's as steady as it gets. I like the Monte Morris addition at the deadline too. So, really shout out to Minnesota because we probably all had that feeling like the first month or so, like, yeah, they're the 1 seed right now, but, Denver might catch them or whatever. They've still been pretty much firmly the 1 seed. They've never been knocked. I think they were knocked down out of it for like one day.
Yeah.
And then they got right back to being the 1 seed. So, that they're playing, still high level basketball. So you got to give a big shout out to them. And Chris Finch has been coaching his ass off too.
Wasn't it like a 3-way tie?
I think it was a 4-way at one point.
4-way, I think.
4-way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The West is so wild to me right now because I would still say Denver is the team, but I don't think they're like head and shoulders above the rest of the pack as far as like being the best team in the conference. I think I just give them the nod because they're the champs and they have the best player and they've been there and done that, right? But still, man, if they don't have home court, I saw somebody say this the other day, if they don't have home court, could get a little interesting out west.
It definitely could. The biggest thing that I try to remember with Denver is Jamal Murray is just going to be a different beast in the playoffs. And that's just a fact at this point. And like he's fine this year, but that's all he's been is he's been fine for Jamal Murray standards. So give him another 2 or 3 months and we'll see a very different version of him, I would suspect.
And Reggie Jackson's probably going to be great off the bench for them in the playoffs, and Peyton Watson's going to provide good minutes. Christian Brown's going to have some games. Like, that's probably just how it works for Denver. I feel like last season we looked at them in the same way in the regular season because it was a little weird up and down. Defense wasn't that good. And then once it got to the playoffs, it was like, oh, they're clearly the best team out west.
Yeah, they're going to be a tough beat regardless of who they get. Like it's tough. They're, like you say, defending champs. They've got the experience, and that's the other thing. I mean, outside of the Clippers, those teams that are fighting at least for those top seeds don't have that experience. That's not to say there aren't other teams in the conference that have it, but quite a lot of those teams are the teams that are struggling right now. Of course, the Lakers and the Warriors being the most notable ones. So, as far as those top teams go, home court advantage or not, that could be the tipping point come late in the playoff series.
Yeah, I can't ever bet against Denver. Just after last year, I was such a doubter. I took the Suns, and it was 6 games, but it was pretty firmly in Denver's control the whole series. And then winning the conference finals in 5, would they win the finals in like 5 or 6? It was sweet.
They swept the Lakers.
Oh, was it not?
They swept the Lakers.
It was just they swept
finals
the
was 5, I
Lakers?
think. Yeah, the
finals was 5. But either way, in every series, they were pretty firmly in control. So I just can't bet against them. I did last year, and they proved me wrong. And I know once the playoffs start, they're just not going to miss.
Yeah, I would have to see something that's just like super, super concerning from them. And the bench isn't great, but they shorten the hell out of their rotation anyways. So I really don't care how bad the bench has been. Because when you have Jokic, he's going to play his 38 to 40 minutes in the playoffs. And he's going to be the most impactful player on the floor every time. Like you said, Devin, Jamal Murray's going to elevate. And Aaron Gordon does what he does. Michael Porter Jr. is usually there when you need him. KCP, ultimate glue guy for them too. So it's like those guys just do their job so well. And then you have Jokic who dominates the game offensively. Like you have to play almost picture perfect basketball to beat them, especially if they end up having home court, which is still a pretty good possibility.
Honestly, with Jokic being as good as he is at elevating people too, I feel like even if the bench guys aren't like super great, just having him on the floor can probably elevate any unit enough to be serviceable while the rest of the starters are getting a break.
For sure. And we even saw that a bit with Jamal Murray in the postseason last year with his playmaking. And like you said, Reek, they shortened the bench enough. Like Reggie should be able to give them some good minutes. Peyton Watson should be able to give them some good minutes. Then they might only go to a couple of guys. Christian Brown still can get some minutes in there. That's 3 decent options. Maybe DeAndre Jordan gets a few minutes. Even Julian Strawther could give you a few minutes if he really gets hot. So they have enough options there that they're probably fine, especially like you guys say, Jokic is around there to elevate those guys off the bench.
Forgot about DeAndre Jordan, man. Still thugging it
Keeps
out.
his job. He keeps his job.
He's actually has some like decent games this year when Jokic is out though, which is the funniest thing. Like he can still play a little bit if he is only playing like big minutes once every 15 games or so.
Yeah, if you need to run him out there for 6-8 minutes in a playoff game, he can get a job done. He might not play any more than that, but he can get the job done.
Grab a few boards, block a shot maybe, catch a dunk, lob dunk.
Oh, brother.
Can't be worse than like Tristan Thompson minutes last year.
I can't help but
at least he's
like
kept the job. Tristan Thompson ain't even technically on the payroll right now, so he's doing better than that.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so many guys that could probably do that job. His networking is just insane. Like there's a gazillion younger guys.
We say that, but like we as Raptors fans know that also cannot be true. And you could have an absolute dumpster fire at even a somewhat competent center for 2 years. 3 years even.
That's very true.
Yes,
a lot of teams.
I ain't even mad. They're trash, but like I ask for the rebuild, so I'm not.
It's good trash, right?
Yeah,
like, you got pieces.
Like, do I want to watch Raptors games? Do I want to watch Raptors games? Not really, to be honest. It's not a great product, but as far as the long term, I'll take it.
I feel like it would be fun, like next season for y'all, like when it's obviously like a full fresh slate, full season without the guys that have been there, OG, Pascal and company. Like that'll be, I think, fun and something that you can look forward to because it's like there's no expectations at all. We can just go out there. If we're bad, that's fine. We have picks, whatever. We have young talent. We'll be okay. So I think
We're in the
next season,
barbecue era.
yeah.
The barbecue era starting off. Woo, smoky.
Do y'all have y'all's pick next year? I don't think y'all do this year.
Depends on what we have happen with our pick this year. If it's top 6 this year, we keep our pick, and that means it remains a pick that could convey to San Antonio next year. So if we if we end up top 6 after the lottery this year, then there's going to be less incentive to be bad, unfortunately.
Okay, interesting draft. Good players, no stars. I don't know which y'all would benefit from more because it's like you want to build with Scotty as the guy. So this might be actually a good draft to have that top 6 pick.
Well, that's the thing, especially like Scotty is your guy, hopefully, and then you still have RJ, you still have Quickly. If you pick another guy who's quote unquote the guy, like it's a lot of mouths to feed, ball and basketball wise and financially. So you probably don't hurt from having to take a second/third option again this year.
They said this draft's not supposed to be great anyways, so it probably will end up being a second, third option draft if we're being honest.
I saw somebody tweet today. They were like, once people accept that this is the draft that they said something like, not the draft that you build a guy around, but this is the draft where you get pieces to put around your guy. That's when people will be like, okay, this is still a good draft. Like there's still really good players in this draft. So well, I'm sure once we get the draft research, we'll all kind of notice that too. Like, yeah, there may not be a star, but man, you can find some pieces that will be great around your star. Like you might find a KCP in this draft. You might find an Aaron Gordon in this draft.
Definitely. We'll move on here to our next surprising teams on the negative end now, the most disappointing teams so far this season. There's a few candidates that I considered here, but I'll let you get us started, Reek, on who's been your most disappointing team so far this year.
Dang. Did anybody have the Warriors written down?
I have not had the Warriors written down.
Did Gabe have the Warriors? No, I think I've talked about the Warriors enough, so I'll leave that to you. Look, this might sound just weird because like none of us, I think, had them as like a top 10 seed out east, but it's been so bad, and it was so bad for so long. The Pistons, man, really just disappointing, surprisingly just poor season. Now, like I said, didn't expect this team to be great or anything, but I wanted to see those steps forward, kind of like the Magic last year, how we saw improvements, like the defense was really good. We saw like, Paolo, Franz, those guys getting better. Markel had a good year for them last year. Like we saw those steps of improvement to where they could be competitive most nights and they'll beat most of the bad teams and they'll sometimes beat a good team, but maybe lose most of those games, right? I was like, okay, I don't expect the Pistons to be a playing team, but I want to see that growth. And we saw the complete opposite. We saw the longest regular season losing streak of all time in a single season. We've seen just drama between Jaden Ivey not playing, Killian Hayes getting those minutes, the rookies being kind of mismanaged and being held on a short leash for a bad team. Monty just seeming like he forgot how to coach. It was just a dumpster fire all the way around. And that's how it's been. They played okay recently. They've won some games. But I can't ignore that record-losing streak. I can't ignore all of the drama, just all of the negative stuff around this team that you don't want to see from a young team that's in really a prime year of their rebuild because they've been bad for quite some time now. In a really prime year, K's third year, you want to see these guys show some type of promise. And they're in an even worse position, I think, than they were last year, personally, because last year Cade was out, so it's like, okay, we'll be the worst team in the league. This year, you've been mainly healthy for the most part. I know Duren's missed some time, but man, just utter disappointment, man. I expected a lot more from this team, even not in the sense of being in playing contention, but we just wanted to see that growth, that still steps forward. And it seems like they've taken 10 steps backwards this season, and I hate it. And it's just unwatchable basketball, and it's been that way for some months now. But that's my most disappointing team other than the Warriors, which I'll let Gabe talk about.
See, there's a lot of shots I could have had for this too. Like just looking at it, like you could talk about the Lakers because after their playoff run and their offseason acquisitions, they look pretty good. Them being 4 games over 500, not great. I could even get into like a Chicago who nobody expected them to be good, but more disappointing from the fact of like they still aren't really changing anything. It seems like their direction is just we're going to compete with what they have. So that's disappointing for Bulls fans because it's not going to get any better or really change at all, it seems. But I can go into the Warriors. And I feel like Greek kind of said, like we don't really have to go into it because we talked about it so much this season. But just the fact that it's just Curry and just a bunch of guys. The only real bright spot is Kuminga. His development and some of his play has been really nice. But everything else, just all the Draymond drama between his suspensions and just all the off-the-court issues. Klay Thompson just not barely knowing how to play, getting himself benched, always having just the worst attitude and pressers and just a terrible look. Andrew Wiggins just completely forgot how to play basketball. That's like the top 3 guys next to Curry, just complete, just all disappointing, super underperforming seasons all at the same time. And it just led to just not a good time. The only saving graces there has been bright spots. Like I said, Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski, he's looked really good over the past month or so. So, like, a lot of these young guys and a lot of these bench pieces, they look good. I'm sure the tutelage of Chris Paul being in town had to do with that. But just because their top guys have been so bad, even still being over 500, they should be way better than this. And I'll just leave it there because we talked about it too much.
Really quick, this is the only thing I want to say. It's mainly about Klay being benched. Do y'all remember? I've said it multiple times on this podcast. I think I said it on Twitter, but I said basically Klay needs to assume that Ray Allen role, how he did at the end of his Boston tenure and into Miami. And now he's saying he wants to embrace that. I'm just saying. It's about time. Maybe that can be actually really good for not only him, but for the team too, because that can show like maybe we'll actually want to try and keep this guy around if he plays good in this role. His first game off the bench, he played great. So hopefully for his sake and for the team's sake, like that can continue because that can help really boost them and give these young guys more opportunity and more confidence too, which they deserve and they've earned because they've been playing some really good basketball. Pods, Kuminga, those guys have been great for them.
Yeah, definitely. Like they still need him to be productive to some extent, but this can't be in the starting lineup anymore. The way he's been playing, and like you guys mentioned, the way that the young guys have been playing, they've earned that role to be able to go into the starting lineup, and they've just simply been better at the end of the day. I could have went a few different directions with this. The Bulls were one of the teams I had on my short list as well, Gabe, for similar reasons. I give them a slight pass on Zach LaVine not getting traded, thanks to his unfortunate injury. DeMar not being traded going into a year where he's going to be a free agent. Baffling, but it's the Bulls front office. I shouldn't be surprised anymore. The direction I went here was the team that I was by far the highest on any of the 3 of us going into the season. And again, similar to the Pistons, they weren't expected to be great. They've just been really bad, and it's the Charlotte Hornets. Really disappointing from them this year. Now, of course, they've dealt with injuries as well. Mark Williams has been missing a significant amount of time. Still unclear when he's going to be back healthy, ready to go. LaMelo, of course, has continued to miss time. And these were the types of things we did bring up when we talked about them before the season was there's injury concerns. How available are they going to be, and how can that affect them? Of course, they've now moved off of Terry Rozier as well. But as a unit, this team just wasn't as good as they should have been, even with some of the injuries. Like it's still Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington pre-trade. Cody Martin was back in the lineup now the last couple of months, and he's been playing fine. But as a collective, it just hasn't been working. The defense has been woeful. Miles Bridges is someone who I almost considered on my most disappointing player list that we're going to get to shortly. And counting stat wise, he's been playing great. But like it just doesn't look like he cares. And that's a lot of this basketball team right now is it just looks like a bunch of dudes out there playing basketball by themselves, and it's tough to watch. Trey Mann being there is good to see now, and he's had a good first couple of games in town since he was traded. But ultimately, as a unit, it just looks like, again, similar to Detroit, they're just taking steps back, and it looks like they're not really getting anywhere. They've shown flashes, and of course, when LaMelo's healthy, they have more of a chance. But even when he's been healthy, they've still just been bad. Tough to see for them. Of course, they've only were a couple of years removed from the play-in, and now they've just fallen back to where they are. Not quite as much of a panic button maybe as Detroit, considering they had that significant losing streak, and they're now year 5 of their rebuild, and they're taking steps back as opposed to forward. And year 5 is ideally the year you like to be exiting your rebuild. But considering the Hornets have what they thought was going to be their push into at least being a play-in regular, even if they're just at the level of the Hawks from where they were a couple of years ago, they look like they might be in a bit of a situation where they're going to have to make some changes and try to retool to get themselves back into at least being in the play-in over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think it starts with the coaching change that hopefully happens this offseason. They're one of those organizations, and could have had the Brooklyn Nets on this list too, because they're a dumpster fire of an organization, but that really goes back like a decade of them just making bad choice after bad choice. But I think it's kind of the same with the Hornets, man. It's just kind of top to bottom. Like the whole entire organization is just kind of in a state of flux where, you know, it's coaching hires or it's front office decisions or ownership decisions. Like it's just a whole bunch of different things that have kind of plagued this team. And then it doesn't help that 2 of your most promising young players, LaMelo and Mark Williams, have both dealt with injuries. And LaMelo,
they're 2 good draft picks.
Yeah, they're 2 only good draft picks. And also those guys are, or LaMelo's case, like this is like continuing for him. It seems like every year he's dealing with some type of ankle injury or some type of injury, you know, right? And then you got Book Knight, who I thought he was a really good prospect. And, you know, basically after his rookie year where he played a handful of games, looked decent in some of them, basically out the league pretty much. Like it's just kind of pitiful, man. And it's kind of recurring for them. So I understand that frustration. And like you said, weren't expecting them to be great, but definitely looked at them as a team that if things go right, they're healthy, their, you know, young talent continues to grow, they could be a competitive bad team, and they're not even really that. And there's a lot of things that factor into it, but just it seems like that's kind of a trend with them. It's a trend with the Brooklyn Nets. It's a trend with a lot of bad teams. And I think that's just the whole top to bottom thing with the new organization.
Yeah, they have talent, but putting it together has just been a mess. I remember the first couple weeks of the season, just how good LaMelo was playing. He was really like close to entering that echelon, and probably honestly, he is in that echelon of like the Halliburtons of the world, the Brunson of the world, like pretty close to like a Trae Young. Like he's of that level. He just deals with injuries so much, but for how good he was playing before he got hurt, and even when he came back for a little bit, I just wish he was able to see the court more, because I think that would be one step in just making this team way better. But even beyond that, like you guys said with the coaching change, it's going to have to take some sort of just organizational, structural change as a whole to get this team anywhere. Because let's be real, since they came back as the Bobcats in like, 2004, they haven't really done much of anything. And
they haven't won a playoff series.
Even if that's like the newest franchise in the league, still like the round before them, like the Raptors and Grizzlies, the Raptors have a championship. The Grizzlies, they've been to some conference finals. Like other expansion teams, like by this point, you should at least have something to your name. But
the Heat have championships.
The Heat have a lot. They're newer in Orlando. They're kind of newer. They don't have championships, but Orlando's been to finals multiple times.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, Gabe.
But it's like, yeah, they just I don't know what's going to go on with this franchise. But it's like you look at the talent, it's like there is a lot to like. But like Devin was kind of talking about, it's just not a good product. I'm a Brandon Miller enjoyer. I'm a LaMelo enjoyer. Mark Williams would have
Trying
good
to think of
impact
players.
if he, bruh, like it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah. It's frustrating to see, especially when you consider the fact that like they have what should be the basis of at least a competitive team. Like they have their elite guard, and they have what looks to be an elite wing. Future to grow, obviously, neither are near their prime. Miller, of course, only a rookie. He's nowhere near that. They're still 3, 4, 5 years down the road from that. But even still, it's hard to look at that duo right now. And between the mismanagement in the front office, the current coaching, and health, you still can't look at that duo and just say they're going to be a surefire, really competitive duo in the Eastern Conference in 4 to 5 years. And that's difficult because that talent should indicate it, but everything else about the organization currently does not, and the health of LaMelo certainly doesn't help it either.
This ain't the same Eastern Conference, man. Like you talk about your top duo, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan aren't competing for nothing. Trae Young and now it's DeJounte Murray. I guess before it was like Trae Young and like John Collins. Trae Young and DeJounte, they're not competing for nothing. Those are pretty talented duos on paper. Even like before the trade, Pascal and Scotty Barnes, two very talented players, not competing for anything. So this ain't the same Eastern Conference. Like you have to have more than just a star. Like you have to have some pretty solid team construction, top to bottom, to actually do something.
And the teams that are consistently good, like you can't look at them and be like, that's a bad organization. For the most part, it takes levels to it, man. It's like you said, it's more than just talent, and you can't just look at the 2 good draft picks that they have had or the 3 good picks that they've had and be like, that's enough to trump this, bad coaching, bad management, bad ownership. Like that's enough. Like it's not. It's not. So they need to go through a deep cleanse, tear it down from the bottom all the way up to the top. Please.
I don't even know who would the worst organization in the East playoffs even be? Because looking at these 8, like New York's been doing a great job in the front office. Boston, obviously. Philly has their ups and downs, but I think they're still overall pretty good. At this point, like it's arguably Milwaukee because of this coaching thing. But Milwaukee got a ring like 2 years ago, so can you even really be that critical? If the worst org in the playoff race right now has a ring in the past 3 years, that says that the standard is pretty high.
Yeah, I think you can still be critical of the Bucks management, though. But
you can be critical, but overall, I think that just shows a higher standard.
I wouldn't say that they're bad, though. Their last 8 to 10 months have been kind of murky, but they're not bad. They just had some interesting calls and decisions that they made.
But yeah, I think being critical of them is fair, especially if you're comparing them to the rest of the top 8 in the East right now. Like, there's very few things you can really pick on most of those teams for right now in terms of what they've done the last 12 to 18 months. I mean, they're there for a reason, ultimately.
I think the Nets might be the worst, man. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, they've got themselves a bit of a dumpster fire. The fact that, if true, if these reports of wanting to build around Mikal Bridges, there's no way that this is legitimately an outlook from a professional NBA front office. Like,
I love
build
Mikal.
with Mikal is like your third option. Go for it. Around him, you are not sniffing the postseason for a long time.
25 games, that was now a year ago.
I'm gonna spoil it. He was my player, like most disappointing.
Yeah,
because he was like odds-on favorite to win Most Improved Player. But it's a combination of I just think him. I saw reports that apparently Jacques Vaughn wanted to build an offense around Ben Simmons, who's played 10 games this season, which is like, okay, that's interesting. But I also think Jacques Vaughn kind of got dealt such the most weird hand kind of ever because they fired Steve Nash. Gabe remembers it because they instantly flipped the switch. Gabe went on a 15-minute rant about the Brooklyn Nets and how they should be contenders in the Eastern Conference. They were playing so good, and then they blew it all up. And whether that was the right decision or the wrong decision, I'm not here to say that. What I am here to say is this is all brought together by them chasing the same thing that they did 10 years ago and trying to jump the process of a rebuild and go forward. Just let's get as much talent as we can, bring it all together. That's what they try to do. They try to do it a second time, mortgage their future again. They don't own their own first round pick, guys, until 2029. When I looked that up, I was kind of in shock. They don't own their own first round pick until 2029. That's why they're in this position where they're thinking Jacques Vaughn's not getting it done. We have talent. This team should be better than what they are. So we have to try and still be somewhat good because we don't have our picks, and we also can't jumpstart a rebuild. Like, we're just in a terrible situation.
Is that an 8th grader?
Yes. 2029, yes.
These boys are in purgatory until the next decade.
They're in hell. They're in basketball hell right now, man. Like,
that's crazy. Oh my God, bro.
It's back. They're the team for men, man. They are in
purgatory. Purgatory is back.
Bro, they're really bad. I hope Kevin Ollie does a good job because I think he's somebody that's kind of deserved a head coaching shot in the NBA. So I hope he does a good job. And they got some players I like over there. I love Cam Johnson. I love Dennis Smith Jr. I like Mikal Bridges too. Nick Claxton. They got good players, but they don't have a building block on that team to save their life. They don't.
Are they the worst, or are they worse than Chicago?
Because Chicago have their picks now.
Yeah, Chicago objectively.
Yeah, they're weird too.
Chicago's assets, their asset pool is much better.
Way better. They could jumpstart their rebuild if they wanted to.
Yeah,
and Kobe White exists, which has been their saving grace this year.
Like Vooch wasn't hard to get out of his deal. Like DeMar could be out the door. Zach probably would have been traded if he wasn't hurt. But they still don't do anything with those assets. So, does it really matter? Like, Brooklyn, they've had some mismanagement.
That's interesting.
But at least they try. Like, Brooklyn's highs, Brooklyn buys in. They get to, the second round. They might be favored to go to Eastern Conference Finals. Like, there's some building blocks there. Then it falls apart, tragically. Chicago is in this state of, they don't even make that push to try. They haven't even. When's the last time Chicago won a playoff series? Was Derrick Rose in a Bulls jersey?
Yep.
They don't even be trying. They have the assets, but what are they going to do with it? Nothing.
That's true, but
in their defense, they tried when they got Lonzo and DeMar, but I mean, we know how that ended, unfortunately. But they were
good. They
good.
were a good team for 30 games.
I'm not saying they were going to be great, but they maybe might have won a playoff series. Nothing more than that, but they might have won a playoff series. Maybe. I don't think they would have personally. But
the pace they were at, they would have played maybe y'all in the first round, the Raptors, maybe.
Yeah, depending on matchup, they would have had a chance.
Winnable series. Yeah. Yeah. See, my thing is though, yes, they have the asset pool to jumpstart their rebuild. They won't do it. That's bad management, but at least they got something. So they might just get to a situation where they have no other choice but to do it, and they might not get the same assets in return that they would get right now, but it's something. The Nets have nothing. They have nothing. They could trade Mikal Bridges if they wanted to, which I think they probably should, to be honest, because
he should be gone. Dorian Finney-Smith should be gone.
All those guys that are good players that can go help a contending team, get rid of those guys. But trading Spencer Dinwiddie for Dennis Smith Jr., what are we doing? What the hell are we doing, man? That just makes no sense.
You know who I want traded? Hear me out. And this is going to sound crazy coming from me. I'm on team officially. This is my debut. First time I'm saying it on the pod. I'm on #team trade Trey. Trade Trey. Atlanta's horrible. Atlanta sucks. They stink so bad. And listen, we started talking about it before we took our hiatus. But Trae Young had me sold, bro. Because I was his biggest hater. He started off the season, couldn't shoot for nothing. Started putting on masterclass after masterclass after masterclass. I would always rag on this man about the efficiency. 37% from three this year. I like it. You know, turnover still a bit high, but when you're playing with those players and you're the only real ball handler on the team, I understand. DeJounte Murray's a guy who has the talent to average like 8 assists, but has somehow regressed to like 5. I don't know what he's doing out there, but it sure as hell ain't passing the ball. It's like DeJounte, his values went down the tank. He's regressed so much from San Antonio.
I think
The only shining light is like Jalen Johnson. That's a positive. Everything else is like, you got to get Trae out of there. That team sucks.
I think DeJounte, and I love DeJounte. I think he's a hell of a basketball player. When you're putting him next to like talent, he's somebody that kind of has to be like a very select piece on a very select team. San Antonio looked great because he was the guy. He was basically Trae Young for them. Like he always had the ball in his hands. But coming to, playing with Trae Young, who needs the ball and is great with the ball, DeJounte just kind of struggles to fill his void. He doesn't defend the way he used to. He does it in spurts, but he doesn't do it like being an all-NBA defender like he once was. So he's just a very like meticulous player that I think has to fit in like the perfect situation for him. But yeah, I'm with you, Gabe. Like, please get Trae Young out of Atlanta. Him with Wemby would feed families for the next 10 years. I would love to see that. Really, I would love to see him basically anywhere but Atlanta right now, because they're wasting away just glorious years of Trae Young. They're making it difficult for him to even make all-star games because the excuse is always going to be he's on a bad team. Would just love to see him in a different situation.
Yeah, that organization's just in a dumpster fire right now. I mean, we went from
so.
where John Collins was a few years ago to what we saw him get traded for this offseason, which was nothing. DeAndre Hunter seemingly gets worse, not better. Gave up a bunch of second-round picks for Sadiq Bey, and now he's just there. Like you mentioned, Gabe, Jalen Johnson's been great. That's going to be my claim to fame if he wins MIP this year. Going to march that one to the hall and make that as my best pick I'll probably ever have in my time of watching the sport. But outside of that, like it's just not working. And like you guys say, a fit next to Wemby obviously is ideal. Pretty sure I saw the stat at some point in time in the last week where he's top 3 all time in career assists per game. And he's been lobbying to like John Collins and Clint Capella his entire career. Whereas the other two dudes have been throwing to Kareem and have been throwing to Karl Malone. Bit of a difference in talent that is feeding these assists. So like Trae knows how to play make. He knows how to be the engine to an offense. And I don't know if San Antonio would be willing to pull the trigger, but that is an absolute match made in heaven with the fact that Wemby and Trae would be a hell of a duo, and those guys are in desperate need of a guard. I don't know if they have an offer that would entice Atlanta, because the best player they're probably willing to give up is Keldon Johnson, and he's been terrible this year. But a bunch of picks, maybe. We'll see.
Man, I'll trade. I would trade 4 first-round picks if I can get Trae Young.
100%.
With Wemby.
With Wemby, yeah, that's all you need, really. Just Trae, like Wemby needs nothing more than a good playmaker, and you're not finding much better that's available than Trae Young. If finding much better than Trae Young, period.
Top 1%.
And Trae Young, like you guys were talking about, needs that like generational type big man, like those other two guys who are at the top of the assists. That could be Wemby. So I mean, they need each other more than anything, and him getting traded there, like, I feel like Pop could make it work on the defensive end if anybody could. He could fit a defense.
Wemby could make it work on the defensive end. Let's be real.
I mean,
Wemby would make
offense. Y'all talking about the offense. I'm thinking about the defense. Even though Trae Young's been having the best defensive season of his career, just look, even if Trae Young's getting picked on, Wemby's cleaning everything up at the rim.
That's true. You blow by him all you want. No matter.
Like
Wemby be
real
there,
talk.
Sohan be hanging out on the wing. If he doesn't get
Yep.
moved in that, like you're fine.
Nah, but get Sohan off the team, bro.
Nah, he's been better since they finally started to relegate him out of that stupid point guard role they were trialing him at. But he's actually been pretty good the last month or so.
Like I said, I respect the idea, but yeah, that was a failure for
Not
sure.
that Keldon Johnson and point guard minutes were any better. I don't know why they tried that after he
They
I was
tried
his
it.
biggest fan a couple of years ago, and it's just been downhill ever since for him, unfortunately.
He got paid and just kind of went back to not being that good.
Yeah.
Gosh, they tried everything at point guard except for Trey Jones until like the last month. Like what are we doing? What are we doing? But yeah, I'm glad you said that, Gabe. Yeah, Atlanta actually might be the worst. I don't know. Brooklyn's bad. Atlanta's bad. Charlotte's really bad. Washington's not much better. It's a lot of just teams in the East that just have just poor organizations, man.
Bro, Atlanta literally has a generational player who stays healthy. That's the difference between them and Charlotte to me. Is LaMelo is always injured, but Atlanta has a generational talent who is always healthy, always playing, and they're still this ass.
And they have talent on the team too. Quinn Snyder's not a bad coach. It's just like I don't know. It's just like what the hell's wrong with this team?
It's just a lot of mid. There's no one who's actually good. Well, to be fair, I'll give credit to Bogdanovic. He's had a great year off the bench this year. But outside of that, it's like him, Trey, and Jalen Johnson. Outside of that this year, it's just like, okay, you guys are fine. But like, what are you actually doing for us?
I haven't heard a word from AJ Griffin all year. I don't even know if he plays.
Not much.
If he wasn't on the team, I wouldn't know because I have not heard anything from him all year. And he's somebody I wanted to see take a slight step in the right direction this year because I thought he had a solid rookie year when he played. He got minutes.
Multiple game winners.
Yeah. Shoot the ball pretty decent. Like, man.
AJ Griffin has played 18 games this year and is averaging 7.3 minutes a night.
That's sad.
To be fair to the decisions of Snyder, he is shooting 29% from the field and 27% from three in those minutes, so he hasn't exactly earned more playing time, but still would have been nice to see some more consistency after he was, as you say, as good as he was in his rookie season.
I feel like you just don't see as much of that in the West. Like, looking at most of the West organizations,
the Kings were that team for a while, but they've done well the last couple of years.
Like, if you look at the teams at the bottom, like San Antonio, they're clearly rebuilding. Memphis this season was kind of scuffed from the get-go, but they were a contender before that. I get like literally Golden State, Portland, and maybe like Houston might be like the worst ran, and Houston looks a lot better than we thought they would before the year.
And it's like, how do you say Golden State too? Because it's like, come on, all the success they've had.
That was a different front office, though. I will say this is a new front office.
I'm gonna give Dunleavy another offseason before I really judge him.
They haven't been able to make enough of an imprint yet for me to be able to question it, and they nailed their draft picks, so I'll give them that. They definitely nailed their draft picks.
Hey, so did Charlotte somehow.
Was at the end.
I'm still Brandon over Scoot. I'm gonna say.
That's fair. Scoot's been playing really good, like the last month or so.
Yes, they both look very good.
Yeah, Brandon Miller's been killing. He's definitely been killing.
Definitely. I think the other team that probably isn't quite there yet, but might have an argument to get to that point in the West, depending on what they do the next year or two, is Utah. Deserve it or not is another thing, but I think people will give them that if they just sit in the middle for another year or two, don't do anything with Markkanen. Young guys are fine, but not great. Like if Keontae George doesn't improve, if Kessler just continues to be fine, and if they don't really add anyone else, they could be that team that kind of falls into that trick too of just kind of being in the middle.
I blame Will Hardy, man. He's too good of a coach.
Yeah, he is a very good coach.
He gets the most out of that talent, man. Like they were playing so bad. Like we thought the Pistons were gonna beat them and end that losing streak, and they beat the Pistons without like half of their rotation.
Yeah,
dude's a hell of a coach, and he's got Colin Sexton playing, back to normal. Obviously, Lowry has had his best 2 years under him. Keontae George, he's been a pretty surprising rookie this
Pretty much
season.
so.
I didn't expect his playmaking to be as good as it was. You know, they've had some guys really, play really good roles for them. And Will Hardy, I'm so pissed off that he wasn't still on that Boston bench when all the Ime stuff went down, man, because, God, reminds me so much of Brad Stevens, like just the way he coaches. Gets most of
Very
that
similar.
talent. So, yeah, I blame him. Shout out to Danny Ainge and them.
Will Hardy. That's crazy too. Like I feel that's really suffering from success. When you try to rebuild and you're just too good to get a top pick, that's tough.
They have their pick this year, don't they?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. And they have
Hard to
hella
imagine they
Cleveland.
don't.
They have
They got
hella
a bunch of
Cleveland
Minnesota
picks.
picks, too.
Minnesota too, yeah.
Yeah, they should be able to continue bringing in talent as long as they hit on a pick or two. Like they're not going to have a ton of high ones outside of their own, and even still, theirs isn't going to be that high. But they have enough picks that they should be fine.
They need another Donovan Mitchell, like a late lottery guy who just blossoms.
Yeah,
Because like I don't like Lowry's not the guy you build around. I feel like Lowry's like the guy who you use to build around your guy. Kind of like you were talking with this draft.
Yeah.
So like they need their guy. I don't know where you get that from. Probably not this draft, the way you're talking about it. But if they can find that guy, lifesaver. Because I don't think they're going to be just so bad they get a top 3 pick.
Maybe that's why they were probably looking at this draft and, Danny Ainge, with all the picks he has, they're probably looking at it like, what benefit do we get for being just bad this year? Probably not that big of a benefit, opposed to maybe next year's class, which I think that might be the Cooper Flag draft, but, they might be looking at that like maybe this can be the year where we go ahead, trade all of our chips in, we'll be bad, and hopefully get a first overall pick. Hopefully that's a mindset that, they're looking at. Because otherwise, like you said, Devin, we might be looking at them in 2 years where they're just fighting for the 9 seed again. And we're like, what are y'all doing? What's the end goal here?
Yeah, they definitely could get stuck in that middle ground, but hopefully they avoid that. Their pick is top 10 protected this year, so there is a slight chance they don't actually retain it, but the protections on that extend to 2026, so they're probably going to end up giving that up eventually anyways. So,
okay,
not the end of the world. It's just, of course, they haven't one additional first this year, I believe. They have Cleveland and Minnesota's pick in 2025, so they got a bunch of picks. They're going to be fine in that department.
I trust Danny Ainge enough to figure out what direction he wants to go. So we'll see. Is his contract up after the season too? Or is it? It might be next year.
I think he's got one more year after this year, and then
that's good.
Then he's up.
It's Clarkson that I think might be a free agent.
I think he just signed a deal last summer, if I'm not mistaken.
He did?
Signed a 4-year. I'm pretty sure he signed a 4-year. Yeah, 4
They
years.
got flexible.
I want to say it's a 4-year 60 or something like that. They locked him up, but
okay, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, Markkinen's on for next year. Clarkson's signed through 26.
Oh shit! Yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah,
hope so.
Yeah, they should be out there. I think Sexton's probably the biggest name they got to think about paying in the nearest future.
Sexton's also through 26.
Yeah, he's got a couple years left.
He's got a couple of years, so.
Because he signed that extension when they traded for him because he was supposed to be the big piece in that deal.
Yeah. So now they got most of their guys under contract for a while. Kessler's still got 2 years left before he's a restricted free agent. George has still got 3, so they got a couple of years to kind of see what they got and see how they develop.
I already gave my negative player, Mikal Bridges. We expected him to be an MIP type guy, or at least the odds did. And compared to what he did in Brooklyn, the 25 games, averaging 26 points, he's regressed. Shooting has been down. A lot of maybe factors to do with that, but I kind of expected more from Mikal. And he's one of the few guys I could think of off the top of my head. There's some other guys like Markelle Fultz did not take the leap I anticipated. Josh Giddey regressed really bad. There's another guy that's on the thumbnail of this video that regressed really bad, but I'll stick with Mikal.
Yeah, Mikal was on my short list. A couple other guys. I was gonna go with Wiggins, but I kind of already talked about the Warriors, so like I don't really need to get into it. He's just kind of been bad at everything, so that's disappointing. I think who I'm actually gonna go with though is DeAndre Ayton, because I bought stock before this season because he wanted that fresh start. He didn't want to be in Phoenix anymore. Wanted to get away from Monty, even though Monty was leaving at the same time. But he got out of there. He got his fresh start. He was the big man. He looked so happy to be there. He's playing with mostly just other guards, a couple good wings, but really was going to have control of the center position. And then we got 13 points per game. And we still hear some rumblings of like bad attitude, not too happy, bad motor. And I'm like, they said what it reminded people of Hassan Whiteside. I'm like, that's not a comparison you want. Like, talented guy in the world. You thought he was finally going to get to that point where he was motivated, ready to play, ready to show out, ready to show Phoenix that they messed up. And it just didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
So because of the stock I bought, because the stock I bought, I gotta eat crow there.
Good pick, man. Good pick. I erased him so far from my memory after the whole ice situation at his house that I didn't even think of him. So that's a great shout.
Yeah, like the fact that we were still doing top 10 center lists this summer, and like we were having him in conversation for top 10, and now this offseason we do those lists again. I will put my life savings down that he is not brought up in any type of seriousness on those lists. That is for damn sure.
Give me Robert Williams, even though he only played like 5 games this year. I'll take Robert Williams. I'll take 5 games with Rob Will. Bro, I think a couple years ago, I had DA. I think it was after the finals run. He was like 5th on my list. I'm like, yeah,
he was in that 5-6 range.
This is the year he's gonna be a monster, defensive monster, and it's always this is the year. Like, Gabe, this is the year. Now it's like, nah, we're done with you.
No longer ever the year.
This is bro. That was DeAndre Ayton was mine to kill Alexander Walker.
Like the next, like if he ever has a breakout year, he's gonna be a most improved player conversations. Like that's how they're going to be talking about him. Like, oh, he went from 10 points a game to 19 points and 12 rebounds.
The number 1 pick is averaging 19.
Is he most improved player?
Man, as much as I hope Ayton figures it out, that I also hope we don't have to endure those conversations. That'd be a wild day on Twitter.
Brutal.
I'd already talked about my most disappointing player too. Keldon Johnson was my pick. I was hoping that based off of the fact that last year he was debatably a number 1 option for part of the season, that was playing into his drop in efficiency. Obviously, he was up in scoring last year, up around 22 points. But I was like, okay, more of a secondary role now. Vassell's asserting himself. Wemby's in town. Hopefully the 3-point shooting at the very least comes back. And it's just been bad. It's the worst season since year 2. Still hopeful that maybe he figures it out a little bit, but given the fact that he's fallen out of the starting lineup and hasn't figured out the 3-point shot at all, not overly hopeful at this point. So rebounding a bit better, slashing a bit better, but considering he was a guy that I've been pretty hopeful on the last couple of years, I've been pretty disappointed from what I've seen from him this year.
I assume somebody would say Jordan Poole, but I think we all know how bad he's been. Yeah, Keldon's he had that RJ Barrett 3-point shooting year. RJ shot 40%.
Just not happening. It's not happening.
Gosh. Yeah, he'll be in trade talks this offseason for sure. I could definitely see that.
Definitely.
You know, he's still a pretty young player still, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely could be a team that someone could take a flyer on.
Bro, that's crazy. The Wizards are so bad. Like, Detroit really might not finish as the 15th seed. That's so crazy.
I think Detroit's going to catch them and pass them up.
They're only a game behind them right now.
So they caught them
too, to be honest.
There's like 2 months.
Detroit has actually been playing okay basketball recently, which is like crazy to think about because they were on a 30-game losing streak damn near, but they've been playing okay. They've won some games. They've won I don't know what their record is in their last 10, but it seemed like they won a few of those games.
They won
so.
3 of their last 10. Lost 3 in a
Kuzma
row.
We'll take
never
that.
That's
tweeted
the thing.
that.
Like, as bad as they've been outside of the losing streak, they've been like at least somewhat okay.
Yes,
Like
they were 2-1. Almost beat the Bucks a couple times. Like, they've been okay. They've been all right.
They just forgot how to play basketball for 2 months, but it's
Kuzma should have never.
That
He should
happens.
have never tweeted that shit, man.
Yeah, that's the definition of I know you ain't talking.
And now they're about to be even worse.
Nobody wants to be that team, brother. You're about to be that team. About to be that team.
For real, them boys have lost 8 in a row. They're in a rough go over there.
Yeah, they stink. At
They're
least
relying on Denny Avdia hooping, and I love me some Denny
It's been
Avdia,
great.
but like, man, if you're relying on Denny Avdia as your primary guy on a lot of nights, it speaks volumes.
I think somebody made a take before the draft, like he's the next LeBron type of player. Like maybe this is the breakout. Maybe this is it. Probably not LeBron, but maybe he's I don't
Mario
know.
Hazonia.
Maybe he's Andre Iguodala or something. I don't know. Like a good slashing creator
I'll
type
take
guy.
a LeBron stopper.
Yeah, maybe.
Close thing.
He's been hooping though. Him, Bilal's been
Yes.
really good. That's all I have to say
That's
about the
about it.
Wizards, man. Like
Gafford ain't there no
Kuzma-
more. Can't say anything good
Gafford
about
ain't there
him.
no more. I don't think Kuzma's been playing as good recently.
Lon Wright got bought out. Don't even got him no more.
I was so upset that Boston couldn't sign him. I was pushing that agenda in the offseason. Like that's somebody I wanted.
Yeah, solid backup point guard.
He's such a Miami Heat guy though. He's gonna be great down there.
Definitely is.
What's good, Bento? What's up? Where are we at though? We at
Did
we talk about positive players?
He joined at the right time.
No, I don't think so.
We were just slightly talking about the Blazers, but
All
DeAndre
positive
Ayton
stuff
stuff.
for sure.
Oh yeah, only positives. We love the Trailblazers.
please subscribe to the channel, brother. We usually have we went through that time period where we were talking bad about Portland, but
It's
over
all
the
good now. They
offseason.
traded Dame. All is good.
yeah, we just had some stuff to say about Ayton, which is deserved. But other than that, there's a lot of players over there we love. So
Definitely some Scoot enjoyers on the pod. So no complaints on what they got going on there right now. But
it's
yeah, I
good.
don't think we talked about positive surprise players yet. We just put on the hater caps for half an hour.
All right,
Nothing
I guess
I like hating.
I'll get us started because I only wrote one name down because I'm so happy for this kid. I'm so happy for this guy. Look, when he got drafted, the guy shot lights out in college. He was a lottery pick because of that. First couple years, I think first year he shot like around league average. Second year is like 27% from three. He was like 34% his first couple years in the league. But his second year in a new situation, shot 45% from three on almost 5 attempts a game. Provides some really solid defense. Aaron Nesmith, man, he's somebody that has really impressed me. I'm so happy for him because I was scared that label of being a lights out shooter in college might have ruined his trajectory in the league. But it seems like he's figuring it out. And I think them trading Buddy Hield kind of shows like, look, we have enough confidence in Nesmith to be a guy that can knock down some shots at a pretty decent volume and provide some really good defense. So he was my guy. He was the only name I wrote down because I didn't know if that shooting from early on in the season was going to keep up, but it has. And he's been, playing really great basketball for Indiana.
It's a good shout. That's a really good shout. I feel like mine was a little bit more basic. I did not expect Jalen Brunson to be doing this at this level. I feel like ever since that thing came out where it was like, who was it? Becky Hammond was like, oh, he can't be a number one option on a championship team. And she was low-key right. Let's not forget that. Like, just historically speaking, like, she is spitting facts. But I feel like ever since then, just like every night, you just see Brunson doing some crazy stuff. And it's really to the point where, like, New York is a really quality team with a lot of really good players. But they just, to me, were like a really good regular season team, but I didn't see their ceiling going up that much from where it was last year. But at this point, a lot of people have them as a real contender. And so for them to even get to that level, basically off Brunson's back, that's super impressive. We kind of talked about Donovan Mitchell earlier. That was kind of another guy that was on my short list. Just for what he's able to do, just carrying that offense as well. Love that a lot. And then lastly, I'll go with the two young guys on the Warriors since I already kind of talked about them too. Kuminga and Podziemski, both of them. Like Kuminga, we had kind of seen the flashes for a while, so it's not too surprising. But for it to finally come to fruition and for him to basically be like their second, third best player most nights, that's really cool to see. And then Podziemski kind of coming out of nowhere and showing that like there's another quality guard on the team and being good enough to take Klay Thompson's role when he's not playing well. Having a guy like that who can step up, very impressive as well.
Yeah, those are some good shouts. I like that. Podziemski's been great. I really liked his game coming out of college. He's been really nice to see in Golden State. Good shout from Bento too, and chat with Maxey. Maxey's had a great year as well. He's really stepped up with Harden being out of town in Philly. I briefly mentioned him earlier. It's a rookie that I was very hesitant as far as how his game would translate in the NBA, especially with some of the on-ball responsibilities he's had. But Keontae George, really solid rookie year from him so far. I was great shooter. That was never in doubt, but how productive he'd be on ball with decision making was definitely a concern of mine. Shot selection was a concern. And he's looked a lot more polished and ready to go day one than I ever thought he was going to be based on what I saw from him in college. So shout out to him for his quick adjustment. He pretty much did it right from summer league and hasn't really missed a beat since. He's just continued to look more and more comfortable. So good to see for Utah, who may not be their point guard of the future, but they needed someone in a bit of a room that's got a bunch of combo guards. So good to see that he's trying to start to assert himself already from the get-go.
Yeah, those are definitely like the two rookies for me as well that were like definitely like a little heads and shoulders. Trey Jackson Davis too. He's really impressed.
Definitely.
Also, I thought about earlier. Grayson Allen has had like a career year across the board.
Very good.
And he's been great. So I got to give him a shout out too. Even though he's a Duke Blue Devil, but he's been what Phoenix has needed, and they've been playing some pretty solid basketball too recently. You know, since they've been mainly healthy. I think Beal might be missing a little bit more time though, but you know, got to expect that with Bradley Beal. But Grayson Allen's been great for Phoenix.
Definitely has. Jalen Smith is the other guy I'll give a nod to as well. I don't know how, obviously not as efficient as he was to start the year, but the fact he's still been this efficient all year is absurd for anyone. Never mind the fact of where he was last year compared to this year.
Yeah. Them Indiana guys like really have 2 2020 draft picks too. Guys that were kind of maybe looking iffy those first couple of years, but they found a role, and they've been hooping in that role.
They definitely have.
Man, I wish the Rockets hadn't fallen off either, because earlier in the season, I would have shouted out a bunch of their guys too. I just keep thinking about it like, bro, when Dylan Brooks was just Mr. Efficiency, he's still having a pretty efficient year, but like,
was he shooting like 60, 50 something?
Yes, bro. It was stupid.
He's getting carried by the first 3 weeks of the year for sure.
He's come down to earth hard, but he's still having like a 40% 3-point shooting season. So I mean,
good for him. I feel like I saw a lot of like good Tari Eason games like in January. So
yeah, Tari's been better. Whitmore's been playing really well since he's been getting opportunity the last month or so. Almond's been looking a lot better as well the last month or so.
Jalen Green's efficiency just hit the tank.
Yeah, he looked good for about the first month and a half. And I don't remember what game it was, but I remember there was a game where he shot like 2 of something. And it was right as Twitter was just gassing him up. And then he just had a stinker. And it's just not been the same since. Now, he's been better in other respects the last few weeks. Like defensively, he's been better. He's been getting on the glass a lot more, which has been nice to see. But yeah, there's definitely a little bit lacking on offense. Although it was also quite funny today when I saw someone on Twitter say that Jalen Green was Trae Young, but with better athleticism and without the passing ability. That's no
That's
longer
not
a Trae
Trae
Young
Young.
comp. That's no longer a Trae Young comp.
Trae Young if he wasn't good at basketball.
Similar to Trae Young. Like you say, like, bro, no floater. Like, are you trying to like? That's really weird. He's also not pulling from three like that. Trae, like, he's shooting 30.7% from three this year. That's not a Trae Young comp.
I don't want to
get
give
on
up on
Trae for
Jalen
efficiency, and
I don't want to give up on Jalen too early, man. But it's been so rough, like these first 3 years of his career. But it's like you've seen the talent. It's obviously there. It's just a matter of consistency that you would want to see from a number 2 overall pick.
Number 2 pick might be cursed, low key. I feel like there's a lot of stinkers at number 2 historically.
Marvin Bagley,
Wiseman,
Kid Gilchrist,
Thamit.
Oh my god, a shame. Who else?
Lonzo just can't stay healthy.
Derek Williams. He's somebody I thought who was going to be great. He was a stinker.
Ja was actually good.
Evan Turner never reached All-Star status.
Michael Beasley never hit expectations either.
Beasley. You might be on to something, Gabe.
Ja and Chet are putting on, man.
They're carrying. Brandon Ingram, he was number 2.
Ingram was good. D'Lo's had his ups and downs, that's for sure. He's had his ups and downs.
D'Lo has had his ups and downs. Vic, he was good until the injuries, but got to factor that in.
Jabari Parker.
Dang, you might be on to something, Gabe.
Who
was the number 2 pick? Who was the number 2 pick this past draft? I'm blanking. Who? I can't even think of the rookies.
It was Brandon Miller.
Miller. Okay.
Miller's good. Okay. Miller's good though.
Yeah, you're fine there.
Bruh, Derek Williams.
I'm a Celtics fan, Ben, so I'm a Celtics fan.
Yeah, Celtics fan on the bottom and Raptors fans up top. At least on my screen.
Evan Turner did not. The number 2 pick is just not like. I feel like you get more stars at literally like every other top 5 pick compared to the 2 pick.
I feel like 4 might, just off the top of my head, I feel like 4 could be another
Yeah, there was a rough string of 4s in the 2010s for sure.
Josh Jackson.
Russ is a 4, right?
Marquise Chris, I think Dragon Bender was a 4.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure in that draft.
I think so. Stanley Johnson might have been a 4. I forget between him and Wesley.
I think Stanley was like 7. I think it was Wesley.
He might have been. Yeah. Wesley was a 4. Yeah.
Yep.
One of them was 4.
Did I say Josh Jackson? Did you say Josh Jackson?
He was a 4.
Josh
4.
Jackson.
Yeah.
There's some more. There's some good ones. Jaren Jackson was a 4.
Keegan Murray was 4.
Keegan Murray was 4. He's been good.
Scotty Barnes was 4. I don't think 4 is as bad as you think. Patrick Williams has been up and
there
down.
was just a rough stretch of them, I think, in the 2010s.
DeAndre Hunter, Jaren.
Yeah, Celtics fans travel like crazy. I've only been to one Celtics game in my life.
Shit. 4. Porzingis was 4. Reek likes that. Aaron Gordon
DeAndre
was
Hunter
4.
was 4.
DeAndre Hunter.
It's not a great
one.
Cody Zeller was also 4.
Hey, 4 is looking better than 2 for me. You got Philly cheese on there.
4 was
you got Tristan Thompson.
Did you say Tristan Thompson? Yeah. The Cavs had 2 top 4 picks, and they walked away with 2 champions.
Tyrik Evans. Russell Westbrook's probably the best one on this list, though.
Look,
Mike Conley.
Tyrik Evans is not a bust to me. I blame the Sacramento Kings organization for all of his shortcomings. Except for getting kicked out the league. That was on him. But I think the Kings might have jump-started that pattern, man.
The worst top 5 in any draft ever has to be 2006. That's the worst top 5 I've ever seen.
Hold on. This was the Bogut class, wasn't it?
No, that was 05.
So this is Bargnani.
Yeah.
So, okay. 06. We got Bargnani. Who had the second pick?
Chicago.
That would be Aldridge?
Yeah.
And they traded him to Portland. Who had 3? This was Morrison, wasn't it?
Yeah, yes.
This was Morrison. 4. Give me the team. Give me the team.
Portland. From LSU.
Has to be Tyrus Thomas, right?
Yeah.
God. And then 506 class. Who was the 5th pick?
Started his career in Atlanta. Former Celtic, played 54 games for the Celtics.
What season?
He was a Celtic in 2009, 2010.
Hold on.
Power forward.
I was just looking at that team, a game from that team earlier today. Power forward.
We're number 13. He was a Duke Blue Devil.
Hold on. He wore 13 in Boston or like?
Yeah, no, in Boston.
Shit. 2006 draft. Who? Why can I not think of this guy, man? He wore 13. Did he actually play?
He got 11 minutes a night in 54 games.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm blanked right now, man. I can't think of anything.
Sheldon Williams.
See, okay. I'm not mad. I wasn't gonna think of that. I forgot he even played in Boston.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's the worst top 5 I've ever seen, though. The Bogut class at least like has Deron Williams and
Chris Paul. Was a Marvin Williams in that class too?
Yeah.
Bogut was really good too.
He was solid.
Raymond Felton was a GOAT, man. What are we talking about?
He had some years.
Best Knicks starting point guard for a long time.
Until Brunson. Like this century is like Brunson, probably like Raymond Felton.
Like 2 months of Jeremy Lin.
Yeah. God, they went through some. They had old Baron Davis wearing 85. They had Wash Chauncey Billups. Damn, they tried a lot. Derrick Rose.
Okay, I low-key lied. The worst top 5 is definitely is 2000. That's just 2000 is just the worst draft period ever.
Was that Tyson Chandler's draft?
No, that was 2001. This top 5 is Kenyon Martin, Stromile, Swift, Darius Miles, Marcus Fizer, and Mike Miller.
Role player draft.
Yeah, that's tough.
Big role player draft. Mike Miller, really good. Kenyon Martin has some good years. Stromile Swift, he didn't play that long, but he was entertaining. He was a really powerful dunker. How do we always get into draft class rabbit holes every single time, man?
Not even the off season yet either. It's just
we always do this. Man.
We got active boss to just talking about random things.
Bro, the rabbit hole I went down today when I was at work, not doing anything, bro. I was looking back at those offensive ratings.
That's crazy.
There's no chance a 27th ranked offense is making it to a game within the NBA Finals these days. Like, there's no chance that's happening.
There's no shot. There's no shot. Just for reference, this year's 27th ranked offense is the Charlotte Hornets.
And they would probably be a top 5 offense in 2011, 2012.
Oh, 100% they would. 100%.
Their ratings, what, like 111 or something like that?
Yeah, the Hornets are at 110.7. I'm going to go look at
top 5.
The 11,
I think
12
the best
season
was
now.
I think the best was the Spurs were like 111 point something that year, I think.
The one offense that year was 110.7, literally identical.
That is disgusting. They would be tied for the bit. Like, obviously, different game. Like, I was watching some Rondo highlights, and the lack of pick and rolls was just astonishing. Floppy action being ran for mid-range jump shots was there. Pick and pop was only going to the mid-range. Different game, just such a different game. But there's a reason why the game was different back then. Is because skill level wasn't high enough for teams to be shooting 53-point shots a game like teams do nowadays. It's just a matter of how the game was.
You're saying that Kobe was playing against plumbers?
No, he's just
Tim
playing in a.
Duncan was playing
He
against
was just playing in a
plumbers?
nasty. They were playing in a nasty era when you look back at it. Still fun basketball, but it was different. Like you go back and watch the game, you're like, "Ooh, are those 3 non-shooters on the court?"
Very different. For reference, the Timberwolves' defensive rating this year at being in first would have them 6th last in that same season. Very different game. Very different
That
game.
is insane, bro. Like the Celtics, like I was breaking down each year because I'm just thinking about Doc Rivers, all the Doc Rivers stuff. I'm like, I feel like he underachieved a little bit in Boston, even though they won a championship. I was just looking, I'm like, damn, these offenses were bad. Like one year they made the finals with a 15th ranked offense. The year they won it, I think they were only like 10th or something like that. Like they were good, but they weren't top 5 or anything. And they never reached top 5. They were tied for 6th one year, which was their best.
Dude, the Doc Rivers thing was so. Oh my god! I've been a Doc Rivers hater for years, so for it to finally be in like the public eye big time I love it. I'm Team JJ all the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
JJ's
100%
just not
Team
holding
JJ.
back this week. It's great.
Bro, what I'm like so confused about, like, do people not remember Doc threw the entire Lob City team under the bus like a year ago? He like just completely threw them boys under the bus.
Yeah.
Unprovoked, just threw them under the bus, which Doc has a tendency to throw people under the bus. Sometimes his own players, he'll do it. So I'm like, I don't blame JJ for always being ready to have smoke for Doc Rivers, especially when he was participating in the conversation. And he basically said true stuff that Doc Rivers gets a lot of excuses. And whether you say, like Austin was saying, well, he got fired from his last job after they lost to a team that they weren't favored against, left out the fact they were up 3-2. Tatum had a fucking stinker for the first 42 minutes of a game, and you were up at home, and you couldn't close that series out, and B doesn't get touches down the stretch. That's coaching in my eyes. It's all coaching. Game 7, you play drop coverage against Tatum when he already has made 5 threes, and you're still doing it. Coaching. All the blown leads, that's all coaching in my eyes. Like 90% of it is coaching. You know, when you have the talent, man, a lot of that goes to coaching. A bad coach can make good talent underachieve, and Doc Rivers has done that time and time again. And it's a possibility. It happens again in Milwaukee. Give him some leeway. It's only been 10 games, but it's possible.
Let's talk about it. Is Milwaukee a contender or pretender? Because to me, I might lean pretender just off Doc Rivers and it being year 1 of Dame. I might lean pretender. Brook Lopez don't look like he has chemistry with them either. That's making me lean pretender. Chris Middleton ain't what Chris Middleton used to be. Still a good team. You know, I feel like everybody always talks negative on them, and they're still a good team. But I'm leaning pretender.
It's tough. I mean, when you have your head coach coming out and saying, "Why are you guys considering me for the job?" essentially, not a good sign. Not a great sign when you're a team that currently has one of the best players in the world and is no doubt still trying to compete for a title. Year in, year out. You just made your buy-in move for Dame. Like, not exactly a good sign for what's going on at the head coaching position. Hasn't been all year, and it's not looking like it's getting any better with the history of Doc and what he's been saying and bringing in over the last couple of weeks. That being said, they still have Giannis, and that's enough for me, just based on the surrounding talent being fine. Now, do I think there are as much favorites to be contenders as I would have thought they would have been 3-4 months ago? Definitely not. I think they are more on a tier 2 contender side than they are a favorite at this point. Now, I still think there's room for improvement. Doc is the primary concern for me right now, but Dame hasn't been great. I still think there's some room for improvement there. Part of it's chemistry. Part of it's just the 3-point shot hasn't been falling. Maybe that doesn't come back, but I find it hard to imagine he really continues to struggle as much as he has. You mentioned Middleton, Gabe. The production hasn't been there as much. the hopeful thing for me is that he's still been very efficient. It's been one of his more efficient years over the last couple of years since he's been struggling with these injuries. Obviously, some of those numbers are down as well because he was on that minutes restriction for so much at the start of the year. So I'm willing to hope that he has some amount of a rise in production towards the back half of the year in the postseason. And again, he doesn't have to necessarily be the second option like he was when they won the title offensively. He can be the third guy now in theory, assuming Dame continues to pick it up a little bit more and be more of that second option. Defensively, there's still questions. It's not as horrific as it was to start the year, but nowhere near this top 5 unit that we've been continuing to expect from them over the last few years. Of course, Drew Holiday being gone is a big part of that, but like the personnel should still be there for them to be better than they've been. And as we've just mentioned, I mean, Doc Rivers just hasn't seemingly been the guy. So I have a lot of questions. I don't have them penciled in as favorites. If you had to have me pick a team today, I don't think they're my team to get out of the East, but I think they still have a chance, and Giannis is the biggest reason for that.
I see Gabe's point, but I'm with Dev too. Like I think I tweeted earlier, like tier 2 contenders, they're that for me. It's hard to like ignore like the fact that any series they go into, they got the best player. And we, like you said, Dev, like we expect Dame to get better than what he has been. He's been shooting really bad, which is not Damian Lillard like when he's a healthy Damian Lillard. Like that's just not him. So you expect that to get better. For me, man, it's just the continuity is just not there, which we've seen for this team routinely over like the last 3 years or so. The continuity has been there consistently. They always would have their identity on both ends of the floor, and they would stick to it. And I think this goes back to the conversation we had earlier about them being maybe the worst organization like that's in the Eastern Conference playoffs right now. It's the fact that you've gone through 3 head coaches in not even a year. It was like what 6-7 months or so. Like you went through 3 head coaches, and I probably would be more confident in this team if they just stuck with Joe Prutney. He's been on that bench for quite some time now. I might have been more confident if they just stuck with that. But I hate teams that go midseason and hire a new coach and commit to them long term. And I especially hate it when it's Doc Rivers. He's somebody that I just personally just don't trust in the playoffs. Like when you get into these big series, I'm not going to trust him to make the right calls from the sideline. And I don't think Giannis and Dame will be great enough in year 1 together to trump that. I can't see it. The defense, it's improved slightly under Doc, but how good is it going to be once we get to the postseason? You know, are they going to be able to stop Jalen Brunson in this series, who torches good defenses? Played great against Miami last year. Played pretty good against the Cavs last year in the first round too. How are they going to be able to stop, those types of guards? What answers would they have for a Boston? The way Cleveland's playing, if they go into the postseason and match up with them. Indiana, I know this would be their first year, but they got smoked from Milwaukee so far in this regular season. They're going to be a team that's playing that mentality of nothing to lose. They're going to still be trying to be up and down, put up points. I'm just really curious to see how this team defensively answers those challenges. And I'm going to give them 10 more games. Give them 10 more games. If it improves, that'll kind of, I'll stand firm on them being in that tier 2, which Boston, the clear favorite, I think, out east. But out of the teams in the rest of the pack, I would probably take the Bucks. If these next 10 games are similar to the first 10 games, I'm going to have a lot of questions, and I might be like saying some things like the Knicks could probably beat them in the series. Cleveland might be able to beat them in the series. And it's going to be a lot of question marks. And, like you said, Dev, like Doc going on this tour, this media tour, saying like, why, I don't know why they would hire me. Like that's so unserious, man. It just goes to show me like, why should I take this guy serious if he's trying to be the head coach of a championship team when he clearly doesn't think he's right for the job? I don't know, man. We'll see. But it's been the last month or so has been a mess for this Bucks organization. And maybe Giannis, who's been incredible this season, is good enough to trump all that. But I'll have to see it with my own eyes before I can believe it.
W rant.
Thank you.
That was good. That was really good. Yeah, when you look at a team and when you're closer to being a bottom 10 defense than you are to being like even like top half, It's just not. It's just that doesn't feel like a championship team right there. You still every team at this point usually has pretty solid offense if you're even like a competitive playoff team, but you still need a good defense to get the job done and win a championship. And they don't got that.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like the spectrum is switching a little bit in that regard. Not to say you can have a bad defense. Like I don't think you can be Pacers level of bad with an elite offense. You still need to have some amount of a defense, specifically to the point where like if you need to get stops and lock in for 4 to 5 minutes, can you do that in the playoffs? I think Milwaukee has the potential to be able to do that. That's enough in today's day and age if your offense is good enough. Now, in past years, we very much know Milwaukee's offense has not been good enough to do that because the role players do not know how to hit a three in the playoffs. That's going to be a concern again this year. Hopefully, they just have enough shooting in that to be able to make that adjustment that they can focus more on their offense. Dame being in town, how much does that help? Malik Beasley being the biggest addition from a role player standpoint. We know he's been shooting the ball very well now that he's got out of LA and got that role player voodoo that seems to have on every role player in LA. Maybe that's enough. But there's definitely still a lot of questions, to say the least. Certainly a lot more questions than I thought we were going to have, and different questions than I thought we were going to have from a Milwaukee team that added Dame during the offseason.
Yeah, for me, the biggest question I had after like the trades and stuff was going to be that backcourt defense. But it's like you said, it's extended past that, like to things that nobody saw happening. And who would have knew that we'd be in February, towards the end of February, and they'd be on Doc Rivers as head coach? Like that's just not something you expect to see from a contending team. So if they somehow figure it out and win it all, we got to have some serious conversations about Giannis being like a top 10 player ever. Like that's how like insane it would be in my book if they like won it all the way that they've been, the state that the team has been. But yeah,
they got to start playing their best ball soon because 3-7 in their last 10 with New York on their heels. They need the 3 seed because
and the Knicks are getting healthy.
If you're 4 or 5, you're not making the conference finals. I'm sorry.
If you have to see Boston in that second round, even if you got out of that series, that's war, and you don't want that war in the second round.
Like that's bad news. So they gotta ramp it up now. Like you talk 10 more games, they probably do have 10 more games because if they're not looking good in the next 10 games, that means they're probably not the 3 seed anymore, and that's real bad news. That to me, if they do not stay a top 3 seed, they're not a contender because if they have to face Boston in the second round, they're not winning the championship.
And that doesn't even include the potential as if by some stroke of luck Embiid's back for a 4v5 series in the first round. I mean, like
you don't want that.
You just don't need to be dealing with that if you're about to make a title run.
And
you have Doc this time, don't go up 3-2. You go up 3-2 Doc, you're screwed.
And God bless Embiid, but if he comes back, if he gets back before playoffs, the hope would be, he already went through his injury, his playoff injury, right? So he just sat out like 2.5 months or whatever. So that's bad news, man. That's bad news. And Embiid usually has smoke for the Bucks, be honest. So seeing them match up in the playoffs in the first round, you don't want that. And I don't want – look, I think Bud can coach circles around – or not Bud, Nick Nurse can coach circles around Doc Rivers in the playoffs. And
this is the last thing I'm going to say, too. Round 1, even if they're 3, Miami's only half a game back of the 6th seed.
And look, Doc doesn't want
Jimmy's
that,
season just started.
Yeah, his season. Yep, playoff basketball's here for Jimmy, just like last year. Like they don't want that smoke, man. I'm sorry. Like their best bet, they better get the 2 seed and hope whoever's down there is maybe Indiana. I don't know, somebody that they think they can beat, Orlando, whoever it is.
Might be even the Atlanta. Trey might get him a game or 2.
They want Orlando. If I'm Milwaukee, I low-key want Orlando because with Milwaukee's weakness being their defense, like Orlando's offense just ain't good. I don't want Miami because I've seen that go bad for Milwaukee too many times, and I don't want Indiana because
They got smoke for them.
If that Milwaukee defense is really suspect,
That's a 6-7 game
you
series, honestly.
you don't want
Definitely.
Indiana. You don't want Indiana because they're gonna have those nights where if your defense is not on one in a playoff series,
they're putting up 140.
yeah, that's what they're gonna have at least a couple nights where they're gonna shoot the lights out. It's gonna be. I would pick Milwaukee in probably 6, but those 2 games that Indiana wins, I think Indiana would take 2 games by 20 because they just have 2 nights where they just can't miss. But the other nights, Milwaukee would probably be in control. But they make it tough.
Tyrese will get whatever the hell he wants on the floor too. So that's an issue right there.
I want Orlando because I think they can deal with Orlando because Orlando's offense isn't good enough to expose their defense.
They can take Orlando. They can take them.
I think they're the only top 8 seed that's an easy matchup per se in the first round. I think everyone else can give most teams a series, Indiana and Miami included down there. But yeah, Orlando, their defense is good, but they're one of those teams where their good defense is not going to make up for it in the playoffs. I love Orlando, but they might get smacked in the playoffs. Their offense might really get exposed, especially if they get a team who's good on the defensive end. They might really get clamped up and get swept. But playoff experience, if they can get through the play-in and get a first-round series, that's more than enough for them this year.
Let's just see Boston because they play great against Boston, so they might win a couple games.
That is true.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to see them, but yeah.
Last point I'll make on the Bucks: alternate universe, and they don't listen to Giannis. Nick Nurse is their head coach right now, and that is probably a very different scenario we're talking about right now.
If you went through all of that Bud situation to basically get another version of Bud, pretty much. Yeah. But I actually might like Bud more than I like Doc Rivers at this point, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, at least you want to chip.
At least Bud knows these guys, too.
You're making me choose between, shit and poop, bro.
Pretty much. But Bud would at least have the continuity. He knows these guys. And, yeah, Doc doesn't. He was sitting in ESPN studios for half the season. And his last coaching tenure did not end well. His coaching tenure before that did not end well. Only one that ended well was Boston, and that was 10 years ago. They just hit a rebuild, and he didn't want to be there, which is fine. But since then, just bad stop after bad stop. And Austin Rivers has the nerve to say, oh, he gets blamed. Get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here.
That's rough. All right, we should probably move on to another team.
Please.
We've. I find it interesting that Dallas is on here because looking at Dallas, light little 7 seed. Now you guys kind of mentioned earlier talking about Milwaukee, where you're you go into the series, you probably have the best player, and that usually gives you a chance. And we have seen Luka do some diabolical things in the postseason. Right now, if the playoffs started today, their path to a title, first round OKC would be their first playoff experience. And then the second round, they'd go against the Clippers, who are historically known for fumbling the postseason. And that's the conference finals berth. And then you're only 1 series away from the finals.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a path. I do feel like there's a path. But I feel like when it comes to contention for them, they're kind of in that everything would have to go right tier.
To me, I feel like after the trades they made, I got to see 12 more games. I got to get to that 15-game mark before I can really definitively say. But my hope is that what we've seen so far, and they're beating the brakes off the Suns tonight, is that the trades they made improved their deficiencies, which was their front court defense was not good in all areas. Adding Gafford helps that a lot. It takes a lot of pressure off of a rookie in Derek Lively who's been good. But then just imagine you're asking him to be that guy in the playoffs. Now you got Daniel Gafford, who's been a pro for a while, really solid at what he does, provides a lot of grit in that front court, takes a lot of pressure off the rookie so he can just be a good rookie, which is what he has been. But he doesn't have to be an amazing rookie, which is what he would have had to be for this team to make a decent run in the playoffs. And in PJ Washington, he's basically exactly what you would want like a Grant Williams to be, but he's just way better defensively, trust him more offensively, very versatile defender in the front court. Really love that pickup for Dallas. I think that was the move of the deadline that really made me like raise an eyebrow. Like, okay, that was a big time move right there. But the main thing is, like you said, Gabe, if they walk into any playoff series, you can argue they have the best playoff performer in the NBA right now. You can make a really good case. Even if he went into a series against Denver, you could say Luka statistically is one of the best playoff performers of all time. Jokic is too. Luka's right there too. You can really make an argument that they would walk into any series and they could easily have the best player in that series. So I got to see a little more, but my thinking is what we've seen so far in the first 4 games since the deadline is the changes are real. They're starting to get healthy, which has been another big issue. And they're like a dark horse contender, kind of like you said, Gabe. Like, as long as they don't see Denver in the first round, I could have some confidence in them making a nice playoff run, potentially into a conference finals. If they saw Denver in the first round, that's bad luck. You might be screwed because Denver's that good. But if not, if they play, like you said, OKC, or even if they played the Clippers, Luka has smoke for the Clippers, and I think they would match up pretty well with them this time around. The talent is there. Anything could happen at that point. So they're in that dark horse tier for me, where if matchups are fine for them, like you said, Gabe, I think they could win a series or two, maybe get to a conference finals. And once you get to that point, it's really anybody's ball game, especially because you have Luka Doncic, who will be one of the 2 best players in the series at worst, but most likely the best.
Yeah, their trade deadline was the biggest reason why I wanted to have them in this discussion, because they're one of the few teams where I could have looked at them and said they actually have the top end talent, and if they add their couple of right role players, there's a chance. Most teams are not in that category, but that's where the Mavericks kind of were for me. The biggest thing that I'm looking for now, outside of, like you mentioned, Reek, let's see where they're at the next 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. How do they new guys continue to look? How do they continue to look on the defensive end? Obviously, very small sample size, including the All-Star break, but number 1 in defensive rating over the last 2 weeks. How much does that continue? Doesn't necessarily need to be number 1, but can they continue to be a top half, a top 10 unit on that side of the ball? Outside of that, they just need to be healthy. Kyrie obviously is the biggest part of that, but even from just a role player standpoint too, I think Maxi Kleba just continues to be really important for what they're going to do in the postseason. Probably not as much so as when they made their conference finals run a couple of years ago, now that they've got PJ Washington in. But even still, his defensive versatility and his 3-point shooting is really important for them. And he's really struggled with that health the last couple of years. And even when he's been healthy, he hasn't quite been the same. Last little stretch of the season, last 3 to 4 weeks, looking a little bit more like his old self. And that's something that they're going to need as well. If they can have him going, they can have PJ Washington going, they have Gafford and Lively. That's by far and away a million times better than any other front court they've had the last few years. Throw Kyrie into the equation with Luka. Pretty tough team for anyone to beat. They're still lacking a little bit of quality on the wing that I would like to see from them, specifically at the 3 and the 2 spots. Derek Jones Jr.'s had a good year. He's not great. 3-point shooting in the playoffs could end up being a problem. Teams might leave him open. Started the season really well shooting from there, but I'm thinking most teams are going to be happy if Derek Jones Jr. is the reason that they lost to the Mavericks. Josh Green, similarly, he's been very efficient again, but not exactly the biggest wing. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been fine offensively, but we know he's not exactly great defensively. So they're a little bit pick and choose in terms of how they want to play on that end from those positions, whether they want the defensive Derek Jones Jr., whether they want the production of Tim Hardaway on the offensive end. That's the biggest spot of concern for me, but there's a lot to like. And Luka's Luka. I mean, we've talked about that plenty, and we know what Luka's going to do. So I think they're on the fringe right now. They're basically in a to be determined spot for me over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll probably see by mid to late March where they're going to land. But they definitely have a shot, and I would have never thought they were going to be in this conversation pre the trade deadline.
Real quick, Gabe mentioned earlier like how Jokic just elevates talent that's around him. Luka does that similarly too, and I think they'll be able to get away with like Derrick Jones Jr. getting more minutes in the postseason if they have to, because when you're playing with somebody like Luka, you just always seem to get easier looks, and I think they'll be able to like put him in positions to where if teams are just leaving him open, they'll be able to like mitigate that in a way.
He's a
Like
very good cutter, which helps that too.
Yeah, maybe use him more in like ball screen actions a little bit, especially if you got Gafford on the backside now or Lively, whoever it is. If you have PJ Washington on the court too, like just thinking about different lineup combinations. I really wish they still had Reggie Bullock. If they had Reggie Bullock still, that would have been perfect because that's the bigger wing that can defend, knock down shots. But I think they'll be able to figure it out. It's just a matter of what, like you said, the health. I didn't even think about Maxi Kleber, but he's another big piece too. But just being healthy fully and seeing how this next month stretch of basketball goes to see if this is the real deal or not.
Yeah, they might be a team who kind of suffers from success too. Just looking at the standings right now too, you want to see them get hot and kind of go on a run and really build momentum towards the playoffs. But right now, they're only a game back of New Orleans and Phoenix, and then after that, they're a ways away from Denver. So there's a real chance that if they get hot now, that they end up in that Denver 4-5 matchup.
Nobody wants that.
That's, to me, is like, yeah, it's just not your year. So I would be more leaning like it's probably not going to be their year because either they're not getting hot enough to get that high or they're getting that high and they're facing Jokic in the first round. So
they might
really
have to,
feel like it's like not this year, but
the way I see it, they're probably going to have to bite the bullet of either facing Jokic in Denver or the Clippers. And neither one of those are great first-round matchups. But you're going to have to see those teams at some point anyways. So maybe it's best to see them early while maybe they're still ramping up a little bit. I don't know. Like, you're going to have to see them teams at some point. I don't want to be in the play-in, though, because Lakers, Warriors, Sacramento's a team that when they're playing great, like they're a really tough team to beat. So I wouldn't want to see any of those teams in a play-in matchup because playing is so finicky. Like, you might be the 7th seed, but then you lose one, and it's like, damn, we have to win. And, oh, God, Steph Curry's coming into our building. LeBron and AD are coming into our building. That's nasty. I don't want that. I don't want to see that. So they just might have to bite the bullet, get the top – hopefully they get into the top 6, and then it's like we either see Kawhi or we see Jokic in the first round. Neither one is great. Nobody wants to see those guys in the first round, but the way the West is, there's a good possibility that a team that we're talking about maybe being contenders might have to see another contending team in the first round.
If you're a play-in team, would you rather want Oklahoma or Minnesota?
Minnesota.
Would you rather play Minnesota?
That offense is so bad. Especially they still haven't figured out that late game offense too. Still looks bad to me. So I don't trust it once it comes playoff time. Even though OKC has the inexperience factor, Minnesota's experience isn't like world beating. Rudy's played a lot of playoff games. Cat's played 3 playoff series. Ants played 2 playoff series. Neither has played more than 6 games in the series. They've never seen a game 7. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll trust
Mike Conley is probably the most experienced one.
Mike Conley. I forgot about Mike Conley. Yeah, he's played a lot of playoff games too. But, and I don't know. I trust Shea late games more. I don't care if he only played in 2 playoff series when he was a young guy, but
even when you don't get the calls in the postseason, I think Shea's still getting it done. Okay,
I trust him because you know what Shea's doing. Like he's where his spots are, and they just know that. Minnesota, they're kind of Boston-like down the stretch where they just don't know what they want to do, and they get into situations where, oh shit, there's 6 seconds left on the shot clock, and now they're sending the double team at Anthony Edwards. What do we do? And they're very Boston-like in late game situations, which is why Boston will always worry me as a fan. But Minnesota's kind of the same way. So
Yeah, and Anthony Edwards is great late game in the playoffs at times, but like again, if teams decide to double him, who's the second option? Cat's fine, but I mean, he's not exactly proven himself to be great in the postseason. Not that anyone's proven themselves great in OKC, but I don't know. Based on what I've seen from Cat, I'm kind of inclined to say I'm a little bit more happy to have J-Dub get a shot off of SGA's double than I am from Cat right now. And that's the reality of what we've seen from Minnesota's offense late game and especially in the playoffs. It's just not encouraging.
The disrespect to All-Star Cat is crazy.
I mean, look,
50-point
I
game.
am accurately judging him based on his playoff misfortunes.
It's
It's
all
the
there.
reality of the
It's
situation.
facts.
You're right. You're 100% right. I just think it's Cat's gonna have such like a weird career when you go look at it. Like once it's all said and done, he's like, you know, when we talk about like fringe all-star guys, he's for real been like on and off the team throughout. Like he's always like right there, whether he's gonna make it or not. So I feel like he's really like fringe all-star defined. Like he's in sometimes, he's out other times.
I can agree with that. He's missed it a pretty decent amount of times for being somebody that's a top 3 big, usually in the Western Conference. Yeah, it frustrates me too because you feel like it would be more simplified for teams that obviously like you would think would have that down the stretch. Like Boston never goes a 2-man game with KP and Jason Tatum. Minnesota, they don't run 2-man game down the stretch much, at least from the games I've seen. They don't run it much down the stretch with Cat and Anthony Edwards. Instead, teams double team Anthony Edwards, and he's still figuring out how to like navigate that because it's not easy when you're a young guy getting blitzed, especially when you're not a super playmaker like Luka, Trey. Like Luka said, if you blitz him, he's like, this shit's easy now because now it's just 4 and 3 on the backside, and I trust my guys to make decisions. But with Ant, it's like, you know, he's a scorer, so he's not used to seeing that all the time. So when they do blitz him down the stretch, it, you know, kind of rattles him a little bit from the times I've seen this season. So it's just part of growing as a young superstar. Like, you got to figure that out. So hopefully they figure out something before the playoffs, but we're almost 60 games in. So I think they pretty much are what they are at this point. And no, Monte Morris addition is not going to help that down the stretch offense at all. Like, because he's not going to be on the floor. So
Yeah, he ain't doing anything. The other issue being talk about a 4-on-3 on the backside. I probably only trust 2 of their guys to make the right decision late in the game, and that 4-on-3 on the backside. If Cat gets it, I'll trust him. Mike Conley, I'm definitely trusting. Rudy, if it ain't right on the bucket, it's a problem. And
Yep.
McDaniels offensively just has not been consistent this year. So that's a total.
Yeah. Still, they will be a tough matchup, though, because their defense is that good. So they're going to be in every game pretty much. But the nights where their offense ain't hitting and Ant has an off – if Ant has an off night or Cat has a really off night, they're going to be in for some tough games. But, yeah, I don't think anybody wants to see those teams in the first round either, though. Like, honestly. Like, in the West, it's really like pick your poison. It's always like that in the West. Like, you kind of got to just be okay with whoever you get. Like last year, it was Memphis. Nobody probably wanted to see Memphis, but it's like they're probably the team that people can look at and be like, we could probably beat them.
I think people wanted Sack. I think people
Sack
wanted
was that team too. That's true. But shit, they gave the Warriors hell. They
did, but
really
look
good
who
chance to win
walked
that
out.
series.
But look who walked out.
Yeah, Wardell was crazy in that game 7.
I mean, you could say the same about Memphis, but there was some injuries there too. Sack just lost straight up.
Yeah. Who's the next team on the agenda though?
Next team on the agenda would be the Knicks.
Dare I say contender?
They're
They
still
weren't on
they're
Mars
still
short.
just on the outside.
They weren't on
for
my short
me.
list.
Like, I mean, look, their depth is great, and like we talked about heading into the season, they are a very good team in terms of being built for the regular season. Brunson's still their best player. And for all
100%.
the unnecessary slack that Becky Hammond got for the comment she made, Brunson's not an NBA Finals winning #1 option. He's just not. And he's a great player. As much as I loved him in Dallas, he's been even better than I thought he was going to be. But he's not a #1 option on a contender. He's just not. They're close, and they're probably going to give a contender or two a really difficult series going through the playoffs. They're not going to make it easy for anyone with the type of depth they have on this team, with the coaching they have on this team, with the defense they have on this team now. Once OG is back, the way Achua is really locked in, and they've got him a good role now that he's been in New York. They're going to be a very tough team to play. Would not be surprised if they take a contender or two in this conference, 6 or 7 games, but they're not winning. They're not winning a chip. There's no way Brunson is carrying them to that.
Dare I say, I think they can make the conference finals.
I think there's a possibility for that for sure.
I think they're in. I think the conference finals will be Boston versus New York, because I think New York will pass up Milwaukee.
Yeah, and to that point, I'm thinking if they play Boston, I could see that being a 7. Like, to be honest, because we know how finicky Boston can get in playoff situations. And one thing about Jalen Brunson, dude's a killer. And when you get into those late game situations, I could see him like stealing a game or two that they probably shouldn't win, but they could, right? But if they made it to the finals, I might be a little more surprised, honestly, if they were able to get out of that potential Boston series. But yeah, it's like there's still like a piece, which is sad because they've made great move after great move. Like, you look back at the last couple off seasons, starting with the Jalen Brunson edition, they've made nothing but good moves. Hartenstein, Dante DiVincenzo, OG. On papers, it's early still, but Bojan, Alec Burks, really good additions, filling needs on this team. This is a team that a few off seasons back was Evan Fournier was their addition, Kemba Walker was their addition. Like, they've made strides since then. But like you said, like, as great as JB is, he's amazing. That's something that he would just have to like really prove everybody wrong that no, I can be that guy. And look, I hope he does it because love the guy. Like you said, Devin, we love this guy. He's a great player, but just can't see it. Like, it just doesn't. History shows, like Gabe said earlier, history shows it's not something that really happens, even as great as he is. There's been a lot of great undersized guards in this league right now that haven't proven that outside of Steph Curry. So yeah, they're not a contender. They're just on that list of, like you said, they could make a deep run, but if they made it to the finals, I would be surprised. If they won the championship, I would damn sure be surprised.
Yeah, I do think they're definitely conference finals, like dang near lock. I almost think they're probably the second best team in the conference. It's just really hard to imagine them beating Boston, and even harder, like, imagining them beating whoever comes out of the West. So I would say they're probably not. They have a lot that looks really good, just like on paper. I mean, you just look. They have a top 10 offense. They have a top 10 defense. They have good depth. I mean, they have good playmaking. They have some good shooters. They have veterans. They've got great rebounding. They're like a top 5 rebounding team. Like, there's a lot to really like on this team. It's just that top end talent. Like, it's really comes down to the top end talent. It comes down to the top end talent.
Everything you just said, like, that screams contender, but then it's like you just get. And I love Julius Randle, love JR, but how good is he going to be in the playoffs? That's a question mark. Just like Karl-Anthony Towns, that's a big question mark. How good are you going to be once it gets to the playoffs?
Getting OG instead of RJ was one of the big question marks. But yeah, Randall's the other big question mark because both of those guys are always super inconsistent.
It would take obviously Brunson to be him, but Julius Randle would have to be all NBA Julius Randle in the playoffs. If they got both of that, then it's possible, but it's hard to imagine Julius Randle being consistently that good in the playoffs, just with his style of play. It's hard for me to like see that. That's what it would take, though. It would take like those two playing like they would have to outplay Dame and Giannis. They would have to outplay Mitchell, Garland. They would have to outplay Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Like, that's how good those two would have to be together. It can't just be Brunson. Like, Randall has to be that elite too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brunson's great, but like for as great as he is, Tatum's even better with probably even a better supporting cast. Like, it's just it's a hard pitch.
Yeah, those two would have to be averaging like an efficient 50, 55 plus a night. And
Yes.
Brunson, I could probably count on to hold up his end of the bargain. I don't know if Randall is doing so, especially the efficiency standpoint.
Yeah, I hope Julius erases those playoff woes, but to be that elite, I'm not sure if he's capable of that. Now, watch me get to the playoffs and he's fucking Amari Stoudemire 2.0, just going crazy. Like, but I love their team though, man. Like they have a beautiful supporting cast, man. Dante's been hooping. iHeart's been crazy. Mitch Robinson's going to be back soon, they said. Like they have done an amazing job rebuilding this roster, but top end talent trumps everything.
Definitely going to be tough to beat that. But so like I say, with the Mavericks, they're one of those teams where it's like they had the top end talent. They were just lacking those middle pieces, those role players, which is a lot easier to get. Knicks are in that unfortunate spot where they went out and got more role players, and it makes them even better. It's just tough. That's the hardest hurdle to get, is to get that true number one guy. There's only usually 6 to 7 at most of those guys in the league at once.
Yep. Might be even less these days, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be. I mean, current day, obviously Jokic has just got one. Giannis has got one. Kawhi, last we saw him fully healthy, has got one. Obviously Curry. After that, obviously LeBron has done it in the past. Do you still want to put him in that conversation? That's up for debate. Beyond that,
I don't think Tatum is. I don't think Tatum is right now, to be honest.
I mean, he hasn't proven it yet.
You don't think Tatum's a championship one?
I made a TikTok about this recently, actually. It was after the Denver game. The Denver game really stole my joy for the Celtics this season, man. Like, I don't care what else I see into the playoffs. Because that Denver game, that was playoff atmosphere. It showed me everything that's been wrong with this team the last couple of years in the playoffs. It just showed me, like, the problems are still there. And it begins with Jason Tatum.
Who is closer to being a championship one to you, Tatum or KD?
Current day, Tatum.
Okay, because KD's been a championship one, but
right
it was a 1A, 1B type thing.
KD's like the most interesting championship one probably ever.
Yeah, I'd struggle to lock him into saying he's a championship one. Like he got it, but like he was a one, quote unquote.
Yeah, he was the like finishing piece to a great project. He was just like he had the last piece to put into the puzzle. Like
I don't know. I'm just like if KD had a good supporting cast around him, I could see him getting it done. The Phoenix depth just sucks.
I don't know about
if they had a good bench, I think they could get it done.
I don't know about present day, and I think there would be a question of who's the number one on that team.
Yeah,
that is kind of 1A, 1B as well, but
because Book was the best player in that playoff run last year. I've
always had both of those guys.
I think Luka's a championship one. I don't know if you mentioned him, Deb, but I would consider Luka a championship one.
I'd put him there too, for sure.
I've always
he's the guy he's the most likely guy I'd put in the conversation who hasn't won one.
Yeah. He's
Embiid's probably the next man up in the conversation, but I mean, we haven't seen dude healthy in the playoffs, so he's even tougher to really debate.
And he's made it the least far out of anybody we just mentioned.
Yeah.
It's easily Luka over Book.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You gotta add some different names to that list.
And so one of them gives me a reason not to. KD, Booker, and Tatum are on the exact same tier to me. Those three are like interchangeable as far as ranking goes.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's valid. That is valid.
Tatum he has to prove it to me at this point, man. Like I don't even know if we recorded an episode after that Denver game, but that just showed everything I needed to see, man. Like until we get to a playoff series, I don't care anymore about what I see from this team. If they win games, that's fine. Get the 1 seed, that's fine. Let's see when we get to a playoff series, like if those issues are still there, which they probably will be. But maybe they're talented enough to where it won't even matter. But we'll see.
We'll definitely see. We'll revisit this in 6 months' time, and maybe Tatum can work his way onto the list.
Maybe Donovan Mitchell does.
Maybe.
Next team up. They're kind of in the same boat to the Cavs. I mean, to the Knicks, honestly, with me. I feel like last year they were the same tier, but this year they're kind of the same tier for me too. I don't see them as contenders, but they could win a series or two, make things interesting, especially if they continue this pace of play once we get into the important times of the season.
They got some Minnesota about them too. Really top level defense. And like we see, like Rudy Gobert defenses fall apart in the playoffs. We saw Cleveland's defense fall apart in the playoffs last year. You look at I don't trust a Darius Garland in the postseason at all, based on what I've seen in the past. And his health's always a question too. They're a weird team to gauge. Last year was so disappointing. I can't imagine it being that bad, but from getting bounced in the playoffs last year in 5 games, I don't think you turn that around with really just minor roster changes, and especially with a lot of your major guys missing major time this year. I don't see that turning you into a contender. They've really overachieved, but they don't really have a top end wing either. And I just don't think their bigs are going to get done on the offensive side. There's still pieces missing and enough missing to keep them out of that conversation.
Yeah, no top end wing is obviously the biggest hole. I mean, the hope is obviously Mobley gets there, but he's obviously not there yet this year. Improvements, I think there's a chance they can be more competitive. I think there's a chance they can at least get through a first round, but reality is this team doesn't move me much more than they did last year. I don't think there's significant enough changes. Hopefully Garland has a better postseason, but the fact that his 3-point shot has really struggled so far this year is not exactly an encouraging sign for that. They need Strus and LeVert to start hitting threes. At least Strus is going to continue to garner respect, so you're going to get some spacing out of him, which you just obviously weren't getting from Okoro last year in the playoffs. But at the very least, they still need those guys to shoot threes. I mean, I think they're both shooting about 33% from 3 this year, and Max Strus and Karis LeVert. So that needs to improve at the very least, because these guys' biggest problem last year, spacing and 3-point shooting. Spacing has improved a little bit this year, but 3-point shooting, they're basically exactly where they were last year. The volume has increased by about 6 or 7 shots, but they're not that much more efficient. Bit of credit to Dean Wade for that, but Max Strus hasn't done the job. Karis LeVert hasn't done the job. And Isaac Okoro's been better, but I mean, we said that the last 2 months going into the playoffs last year, and we know what happened in the playoffs with Okoro last year. So it's largely unchanged. Mitchell playing the best basketball of his career, arguably, over the last few months. That'll help, but it's probably not enough. They're probably even below the Knicks as far as where they could potentially go, unless some guys just start playing like crazy. Specifically role players, they're going to need some Mobleys, some Max Struses, some Karis LeVerts to really have some crazy games in a playoff series to win them a game or two to really make a push.
That's valid. What will definitely help is if Donovan Mitchell can get back to the Donovan Mitchell we usually perceive in the playoffs, which he hasn't been, as Dev always alludes to the point where his last playoff series have been pretty bad. If he gets back to what we've seen those first 3 years or so of his career, 3-4 years, that'll help a lot, because that's why they got really dog walked by the Knicks, was because he was bad, and then everybody else wasn't even picking up their ends. They were getting killed on the boards. Nobody knocking down shots. Garland was just a negative all over the floor, pretty much. So Donovan being himself in the playoffs should help if he's back to that. DG's got to go small backcourt. I was just thinking that too. Guys were talking about a wing. At some point, you might have to have those discussions between Garland being the guy. We talk about Mobley and Allen. Garland's another guy, because just small backcourts don't win. It's just a fact.
It's weird. This whole era started with like Garland and Jared Allen. So like, I don't know. Choosing somebody over Garland feels weird. It feels wrong.
love Darius. I love Darius. But you gotta look at it like you probably have a better chance of winning with Mitchell being your best backcourt player over Darius Garland. Especially if Mitchell continues if he continues the playmaking pace that he's been on, like I think you could sacrifice some of that to get a wing guy in. Like, how would y'all feel about the team if like they had a Mikal Bridges?
I was gonna say, what if you
unironically they could use Lauri Markkanen back.
Markkanen.
What if you traded like Garland to San Antonio and got one of their wings?
Like Vassell, maybe? It'd have to be Vassell because you don't want Keldon.
Yeah. I don't think like it'd be great for San Antonio. I don't think San Antonio have anything that actually moves the needle for Cleveland.
I'd rather get Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, I would love, Darius Garland. I'm just thinking of Darius Garland's market, and San Antonio feels like we were saying with Trey. For any good like point guard that needs a new home, dude, San Antonio would be a great spot.
That's true. That's true. Maybe if Vassell like just exploded a little more, took that a bigger leap, but I don't know how better Devin Vassell can actually get. He's really good, but I don't know how much better he can be.
Yeah. I don't know how likely the Spurs would want to give him up compared to Garland, I guess.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty lateral move to trade off of one of your young guys you just extended.
Yeah, that's why Mikal might be a little better. And he has that experience to just come in, contribute to trying to win now and stuff. So
apparently he's being built around. So
yeah, they would probably offer like Ben Simmons for fucking Darius Garland at this point. The word of that front office be thinking. Luka does own the Suns.
Dennis Smith Jr. and Dorian Finney-Smith.
Is Royce O'Neal gone? Where did he go?
Yeah,
Phoenix?
He got traded to Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him.
It was a good pickup.
Royce. Yeah. Do we got to start? You had start bench cut on the.
I do have a bunch of start bench cuts, and I got one with Donovan Mitchell, so I might as well start us with that one.
Okay.
Picks for Miles Bridges.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
I feel like you can get Miles for a little. You can get Miles for a little cheaper. Or maybe you meant Mikal. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want Miles Bridges on my team.
I'm thinking if Miles would have to be cheaper. I'm thinking probably Mikal.
You could probably get Miles for fucking Craig Porter Jr. in a second.
Oh man!
Shout out to Craig Porter Jr. He got a contract. Yes,
for sure. Like Donovan Mitchell, start bench cut. I got Donovan Mitchell with Devin Booker and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, shit, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm starting Shai. Basing off of this season.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Starting Shai. I'm benching Donovan, and I'm cutting Book. I love Book, but I'm cutting Book.
Based off strictly this season, I would have to agree. Overall, I would probably start Book because I've seen him be the number one option on a team that went to the finals. Besides Game 7, Devin Booker's still like. He still played really good. Literally outside of those Game 7s, Game 1 through 6 of like every playoff series I've seen him in. Great playoff performer. He's really stepped it up as a playmaker this year. Probably at this point the best playmaker of these three guys. I don't know if he's bigger than Shai, but he's definitely a bigger player than Donovan Mitchell, which helps when you're trying.
They're both 6'5". I think Shai is 6'5", 6'6", something like that. They're bigger guards.
Donovan's like
6'1".
Donovan's like my size, but
It feels weird cutting Book, but based off of as good as Book's been, he was a fringe all-star, basically.
Overall, I would cut Mitchell, and I hate to say it, but I think the ceiling of a Donovan Mitchell team is lower than the ceiling of a team led by the other two players. I think the ceiling of a Shea-led team could be really high, and I've seen a Book-led team go to the finals.
Do you think Shea has the ability to be a championship #1 at some point?
I think he could be a championship like 1B.
Interesting.
He can be a 1 for me.
I was gonna say I think he can be a 1.
I think he's got that upside.
It's usually just not
guards. For sure.
It's usually just not guards, but when you're straight, like the one you said, based on strictly this season, but overall, I'm starting Book, benching Shea, cutting Don.
Overall, I'd probably cut Shea and bench Donovan.
Okay. Interesting. I'm starting Shea either way, so.
Yeah. Oh, either way. Okay.
Either way, I'm starting Shea.
Okay.
Canadian Glazer.
I believe in what Shea's got going on.
He believes
that I average 30
for
the second time in a row. Yeah.
Devin's gonna tell me Shea's better based off meat print.
Aura. Damn, that's a tough one. That is a tough one, though. The captions are getting corny to me, though. I'm not gonna lie. The last one kind of pissed me off. I'm like, bro, this ain't hard. Like, stop.
Okay, I got another Cavalier guard in the next one. I got Darius Garland, Kobe White, and Drew Holiday.
Holy.
Start Drew Holiday.
I'm starting Drew.
Hey.
Based off this season, his numbers are down, but efficiency's there. Defense is always great. Damn.
Drew Holiday wins titles, bro. How many guards actually play defense? That's a hot commodity.
I think
I'm with PTP in chat, bro. I'm cutting Garland. I'm a bench.
I was thinking what A Money said, but I was gonna switch Kobe and Drew and cut Darius Garland. Kobe's been playing really good. Efficiently good too. Drew's been really good defensively, pretty efficient. Darius has missed a lot of time. And when he's played, hasn't been the all-star level Darius Garland that we're used to.
Yeah, I'd probably have to cut Darius too. I might start Kobe though. Kobe's he's been too good.
If you had Derek White in there, I would probably think about that a lot more. I need
that is fair.
I need that hot commodity. That
Drew's been good though, man. I didn't realize how good his 3-point shooting was, but he's been shooting the lights out, man.
Guard defense, it don't grow on trees, man. A guard who can score, you can find that a lot of places. A guard who can pass, not as many places, but you can find them. But a guard who defends really well, not a lot of guys.
I remember the Denver game. There were a lot of possessions like Drew was starting on Jokic.
Yeah.
On the defensive side. Like you said, they don't make guards like that everywhere. There's like a handful in the league that can do that. Now, you ain't stopping Jokic, but to even put them as the primary defender for a few possessions, like that's rare.
You need that Miami shooting if you want to beat that. Jimmy was rising up, make it anyway.
Yeah. Damn, Darius. I love that guy, but damn, he's just been ass and injured recently.
Yeah, not quite it this year, but he'll bounce back. I'm not too worried.
Yeah. Drew, Derek White, Smart was in Boston. There's some other guards too that could probably get that kind of consideration.
For sure. All right, third one I got is 3 young wings. We got Scotty Barnes, Paolo Banchero, and J-Dub.
I'm gonna start Paolo. I'm gonna bench Scotty, cut J-Dub.
I did not have to hesitate on that one. Interesting.
Paolo, I think, just has the highest ceiling. Like, I've seen a lot of good stuff out of Scotty, but his development seems a little slower, whereas I feel like Paolo could end up like, I mean, Paolo, he just made the All-Star team, didn't he?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, All-Star this early, like, Orlando's already in playoff contention this quick. And he could really be something special. J-Dub, he probably has around the same potential as the other guys, at least close. I think recognizing that in his situation might be a little bit harder just because he's not looked at as the guy. He's probably like the third most important guy there, whereas the other two are definitely like the guy.
Are we projecting more with this one?
When you're this young, I mean,
Paolo, yeah, he's starting for me. I think that's a clear-cut franchise guy in my book. That's where it gets tough, man. I want to lean J-Dub, and I think I'm going to. I'm going to say J-Dub, benching him, and I'm cutting Scotty. Love Scotty. Had fun breaking down film of his play, but tough call. Tough call, but
he hates autistic people. That's crazy.
That's insane, Gabe. That is insane.
Twitter and Scotty Barnes is a crazy place, man.
It's a crazy place. Like, bro, he's just having fun. Let's be honest.
For real. But nah,
the allegations are wild, bro.
That's tough. I'm interchangeable though, but I'm gonna say J-Dub to not agree with Gabe.
That's probably where I'm at too. If I'm projecting, it's tight between J-Dub and Scotty, but J-Dub's just looked so good the last couple of months. He is
so out of pocket. So out of pocket, man. That will not get clipped.
It'll definitely not be included in whatever segment this gets posted in. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the fourth one, shall we?
We're trying to be on the air next week. We're trying to be live again next weekend. First episode back, Gabe is sabotaging.
If there's only two of us next week, you know why.
Yeah, 3 Point Weekly went woke, bro. They kicked me out. It's crazy. Don't tell me you haven't seen the Scotty allegations, bro.
I have, and they're insane.
Okay, fourth option. We got some role player wings this time around. We got Denny Avdia, we got Rui Hachimura, and we got PJ Washington. One current and one former.
Two former teammates, yeah. Teammates. Danny, PJ, and Rui. Okay, that's interesting. That is interesting. I think I'm gonna cut Rui. I think I'm gonna bench Danny. Damn. I'm gonna start Denny and I'm gonna bench PJ. I think.
That's what I'm going with. I'm starting Denny. I'm benching PJ, and Rui's getting the cut.
Yeah, I think Rui's good at what he does, but even though Denny's hasn't consistently been what we've seen like the last 10 games. But I feel like I've consistently seen more like really good stuff from Denny than Rui at this point. For sure. And PJ, he's been what he's been for like the last 3 or so years. Like we know what we're getting from PJ Washington. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I think I'm still just barely starting PJ, but PJ and Denny are close, and then Rui's definitely getting my cut.
Plus 10. Plus 10
That's really true. Nobody cared about Rui outside of real NBA fans until he got traded to the.
I mean, he had a good playoff run though. Like he deserved the recognition in the postseason last year.
He did.
I feel like he was shooting like 90% from the field in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was
He
definitely
never missed a
really
shot.
but he's not followed that up with the same level.
That Laker tax is a real thing, though. Like that's a very good point, Jacob.
Definitely is. All right, next one. I want to see where you guys are throwing Wemby in some center conversations. I got Wemby with Gobert and Miles Turner. Just current day, no projections for Wemby. Where are we at?
I'm starting Gobert, literally the best defense in the NBA. I'm gonna bench Wemby and cut Miles. Miles is great at what he does, but Wemby is very dynamic, and you don't see a lot of very dynamic big men. And the ones you do are very good teams.
I agree with that, but I'm starting Wemby and benching Rudy. Might be a hot take, but
I'm with you.
Start Wemby, bench Rudy, cut Miles.
Over the best defense in basketball.
Yes. Yes.
It's hard to say because Wemby, he does look amazing, but like I can't put the guy because that defense is Rudy. Like, don't get me wrong, Ant, Cat, they obviously contribute, but the offense is mid, and that's more what those guys excel at. But
yeah,
Rudy literally has that team as the 1 seed in basketball.
I know.
And Wemby's team has 11 wins.
I know. It's not Wemby's fault, though.
It's not. Like, Wemby, he's great. I don't know if I can say winning 11 basketball games.
These last 6 weeks, bro, oh my goodness, he has been lighting stuff up.
Special
like, bro, he's not like they were saying Chet was better. I remember this. Chet's regressed a little bit. Wemby's only gotten better.
Chet was better.
More efficient.
You can't say they were saying Chet was better. Chet did start off better.
Bro, okay, sure. But the conversations around Wemby were actually like gross.
They were.
Like people were projecting like, oh, Chet's gonna be better than Wemby. But I saw some nasty stuff, some nasty discourse. They gave this man Trey Jones, and he started instantly being more efficient, playing better. Trey Jones like a bottom 10. He's a solid dude, solid point guard, but he's like a bottom 10 point guard.
Pop was trolling.
Yeah, Pop was just trolling stuff.
Pop was making that man. Pop was trying to make that man humble. He said, "You come into the league as the number 1 pick on my team. I'm humbling you out." He made him look like ass, giving him jerseys.
He's like, this is what I can do to you. I can make your life like this.
He got Doja Cat at point guard. Like, how you gonna win with that?
Oh, and what? The Spurs are like not even bottom 5 defense. They're bottom 10. They're only.
I've never heard a team get props for being a bottom 10 defense.
Look, only bottom 10.
When Wemby is one of like 2 good defenders on the team, it's enough. It's enough. Like,
yeah, we've seen Rudy teams get torched in the playoffs. Come on now.
Like, there is a genuine argument
that you've seen Wemby in the playoffs.
It's year one.
That's all part of the plan. He can't make the playoffs this year. You can't question it.
Yep.
There is genuine arguments as a rookie. He should be all defensive team this year, and that's
he's blocking like 4 shots a game, bro.
Like he's already nearly as good of a defender as Rudy, if we're making that comparison, and he's miles ahead offensively already.
Is he gonna steal the Stifle Tower nickname? Because he's a bigger guy, also from France.
Nah, I think Rudy's more of a tower. He's like a skyscraper type deal, man. Like it's a little different.
That's the Space Needle. That's the skinny guy, right there.
Yeah. That's what Wemby is. But yeah, once they get some adequate defenders around him, not even good, adequate, they'll be better.
Definitely.
His versatility, he can switch. Like he's so good already.
He's wicked. All right, moving back.
MJ, facts.
Would be, man. All right, back to some role players. We got Aaron Naismith, Josh Green, and Sadiq Bey.
Ooh, I'm starting Neesmith. That's my boy. I'm starting him. Then it's like, damn. I'm benching Josh Green. I feel like I've seen more I like from Josh Green than Sadiq Bey, so I'm gonna have to cut Sadiq Bey. Plus, I don't want to pay him. So we're just gonna cut him.
That's very valid. I'd probably go the same way. Like Naismith's been great this year, like you were talking about earlier. Been loving what I've been seeing from him. Josh Green hasn't necessarily taken the leap I was hoping he was going to, but still solid defensively. Still shooting 40% from three. So I'll bench him. Sadiq's only shooting, and I ain't paying him. So he can go.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. Like, just even by like counting stats, PJ might or not PJ. Why did I just lose the player name?
Josh Green?
No, the other guy.
Sadiq,
bro. Why did I always say PJ instead of Sadiq? I don't know. I just had a crazy. That's how, bro. I was like counting stats. Sadiq Bey is definitely better, but as far as just the efficiency and just being a little bit more rounded, like Josh Green is the guy to put there.
Sadiq's gonna go to like fucking Miami and all of a sudden be good again. People talk about the Lakers. We need to talk about people playing with Trae Young and getting worse when it's not his fault. Like, why do people go play with Trae Young and forget how to play basketball? I'm sick of it, man. Prayers for my boy.
We're going to talk about one of his boys. We got Bogdan Bogdanovic in the next one alongside Malik Monk and Gary Trent Jr.
I feel like Gary Trent has to get cut here. He's been better, though.
You said the Hawks Bogdanovic? Okay.
Bogdanovic.
I know he's been hooping.
Good Trae Young hoopers.
I know he's been hooping. I got to see what his numbers are. I haven't checked box score counting stats in a while. Yeah, that boy been hooping. I think Malik Monk still's been hooping too.
Yeah,
I think man.
Gary Trent Jr. gets the cut, man. He's very, very inconsistent.
Big Gary fan. He's been playing better recently, though. He was born in Columbus. I didn't know that. Shout out to Gary.
But yeah, I would start Malik, bench Bogdan.
I'm gonna switch it up then. I'm gonna start Bogdan. He's been so efficient and so good. I'm gonna start him. Bench Malik.
Yeah, I'm starting. Gary. I think I'm starting Bogdan this year too. It's
even though
tough,
Malik's my 6th man of the year before the year.
Yeah, it's tough. Monk's a little bit better getting downhill, can create a little bit more, but Bogdan's just been so good.
17 off the bench.
He didn't come into the league until age 25. That's still so crazy.
He was a really good rookie too.
Yeah, he came in hooping.
Damn, he was drafted in 2013. 2012, shit.
Yeah.
He's only 31, which is crazy.
Yeah, the way he plays, he's still got some good years in him for sure.
37 from 3, 43 from the field. Yeah, that's about on par with what he's done in his career. Yeah. At least he plays good. Other guys, DeAndre Hunter, Sadiq Bey. What can you say, man? What can you say?
Yeah, nothing much else great coming out of Atlanta outside of about 3 dudes this year, unfortunately. All right, getting your guys' thoughts on another rookie center. We got Derek Lively with Clint Capella and Zubac.
Zoo is interesting. I'm not going to lie. Some games he looks great. Some games he looks fucking awful.
He's been like that this year, definitely. Especially since Harden arrived.
Is starting Lively crazy?
I would probably start Lively over Capella. I think I would start Lively and bench Zoo. Because if Zoo has one of those games where he's playing like ass, you can put him right back down the bench.
Like Capella's numbers look good, but
I'm I'm not moved by.
I don't know. I think I could average, if I was a 7-footer, I think I could average 12 points with Trae Young.
The Clippers always look mad decent in a Western Conference that has a couple really good big men.
Man. And when he was healthy, Mason, Daniel Tice has been really good for them. Fucking, I'm starting Lively, I'm benching Zoo, and I'm cutting Clint. That's where I'm going with this.
Wasn't sure I was going to see a Lively start, but I like it.
I'm starting him.
It's nasty.
Even though Gaffer's probably going to be better now, but
it's nasty and I love it.
Zoo's up and down. He's like 30 years old, man. Like Lively, he's a rookie. You expect that. Zoo's like 30. And they have 2 other bigs that can do similar stuff. So have to bench Zoo. He be seeing that bench. He gonna be seeing that bench in the playoffs from time to time. It's okay.
I think he's on the pine for me, but I don't hate it.
All right, who are you starting then? Clint?
I think I got it. I'm gonna take that back. I think I start Zoo.
Okay.
I think I start Zoo and Lively's on the bench.
That's fair.
I think I need the vet in the starting lineup, but
Zoo's highs are really, really good. His highs are really good, but them lows, man, he be looking like shit sometimes.
Definitely has some rough nights from time to time.
How many do we have left?
We got 2 more.
Okay.
We got youngins for the last 2. The first one being Vince Williams Jr., Dualt Reith, and Grady Dick.
Reith's been good. I'm gonna cut him. Shit. I'll probably bench Grady, and I think I'm gonna start Vince. I really like Vince, so I'm gonna start him.
Shoo. I gotta keep it a band with you right now.
You're not hip to do up, Reith?
This is where I told y'all I would be sounding like a casual today.
27-year-old rookie, by the way.
I ain't been tapped in a minute, but
Dualt Reith,
Here, I can help you
DeAndre
out.
Ayton. It's all good. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, he's better than DA.
Really?
I think I'd rather play him than DA right now.
Probably.
Well, I'm gonna start Grady because my GOAT.
Raptors bias.
Raptors bias. I'm a bench Duop Reith because that's a fun name, and poor Vince, I guess, just has to get the cut, even though he might be the best player.
You're insane for cutting Vince, bro.
He's probably he might be the best player here, but he's gonna.
I think he has all NBA caliber defense. I've seen him put the clamps on Brandon Ingram, put the clamps on a lot of guys. He was guarding Giannis down the stretch. He was switching on clamps, and he's shooting league average from 3.
Yeah,
9 points a game.
Yeah, he's been great. He's definitely getting my start for sure. I think Grady on my bench, but Vince is
Reith's been cool though. He was one of those players.
He's Ohio born. Oh,
he is. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from Toledo.
Oh, great city, and he's only 23 years old.
This is heartbreaking. All right, I take it back. Do I breathe? He's gonna have to get the cut.
Y'all say Grady's been playing like good lately.
Yeah, he's been good the last 3 to 4 weeks.
That's good. I haven't watched a Raptors game in a while.
Since he went down on his special program for a couple of weeks in the G League, since he's come back up, he's been good.
Okay.
I'm starting G.G. Jackson over all of them.
He's been
hooping.
Other than the 5 suspensions they randomly revealed he had. Other than that, he's been playing good.
Definitely has. All right, last one. I got 3 more rookies.
Nobody's watching Portland.
We got Pajemski, Cason Wallace, and Cam Whitmore.
Cam Whitmore's the last one?
Yes, correct.
Pods is starting.
For sure.
I don't think that should be much of a debate. The last 2 was kind of interesting. Since Cam's gone this opportunity, man, he's been so good. I think I'm gonna bench Cam, and I'm gonna cut Kaysen, who's also been really good.
Okay.
Fuck. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, I'd have to also cut Kaysen. I think Cam Whitmore is just doing a little bit more with that opportunity.
He's still shooting 40 from 3. Like, oh man, the kid's good.
Yeah, he's been really good. I'm probably starting Kaysen.
Oh, you're starting him.
I think I start him. I'm gonna bench Pajemski and cut Whitmore.
Okay.
That's a tough one though. You could argue that all 3 ways for me.
Cam in only 17 minutes of games averaging 12 points. Like, that's volume.
Yeah, he's been
His
hooping.
percentages is actually decent too, which is okay.
They got Jeff Harder out the Bay Area. Starting is crazy.
Pods, yeah, his counting stats are good. His play is good. Okay. Kaysen is like, he's really good too. He's kind of surprised me a little bit as a rookie.
Yeah, me too. I did not expect the 3-point shot to be as good as it has been.
I saw him as like a mid-range shot creator type of dude, but he's been shooting the lights out.
Yeah, very decent surprise for sure. I thought it was like, especially first year, like fine defensively, bit of a connective piece, can give you a little bit of playmaking as a backup point guard, but definitely been a much better expected season from him. And the fact that Giddey hasn't been as good as Meany's been even more needed than you would have expected. So good pickup for them. As much as I wasn't a big fan of the pick of the draft, but
still think they maybe should have taken Lively, but it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, they got a couple of picks this year. Maybe they address that. Whether they take a Flipowski or
draft.
Someone else. There's a few guys they could look at.
God, I'm not even in a page deep into draft research, man.
Yeah,
I've just been seeing a lot more propaganda.
Yeah, it's that time. We're getting to back into February. We're getting to tournament time. So
Rob Dillingham.
Yeah, seen a lot about him.
Jalen Williams' brother, forget his name, but his
Cody,
brother.
I think.
Yep, Cody.
Matt Spozilius, although I might be saying his name wrong from the G League, is a guy I keep hearing about too. Okay. Then Olivier Sarr, the French guy, is
seen a lot of propaganda
number
on him. The Ignite guys, Holland and I'm gonna learn how to say his name. Muselis, something like that.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple Duke guys.
They got a big Flakowski. I forget exactly the pronunciation.
He was supposed to come out last year. He stayed extra year.
Yeah.
I think Kentucky has another Reed Shepard, I think his name. Somebody I've seen a lot of clips about. Yeah, Dillingham he's nasty. Yeah, but he just reminds me of like when I watch him, I see like that Maxi Quickly mold, which is a really good player.
Yeah.
That type of talent. Kentucky guys. Funny enough.
OKC blowout on the Clippers today.
It's that All-Star, like the entire break seemed like it was like forever.
Bro, are the Pelicans good? Because nobody ever talks about them. I have not watched a Pelicans game in ever.
They're good.
I'm glad they're
about as far as I can go with them. They don't
Zion
move me, but they're
healthy. Good. Yeah, they don't move me at all. Zion has clearly regressed a little bit. I don't know what it is, but he's not the same. CJ's been better this year than what he was last year. I love their young guys. Dyson Daniels get well soon.
Facts.
Gabe he should be sponsored by Prime, to be honest.
For real.
He should be sponsored. This is the most famous guy.
And needs to have the big sign at the back that is hashtag not an ad.
Yes.
If this is if we ever get a sponsorship deal,
It has to be Prime.
it's gonna be because I've been putting on since day one.
Like, you got like 13 bottles back there.
We might get a sponsorship deal with Pop too. So,
Oh my God, the
I
amount of happy Raptors we see.
I haven't had the chance, but
We need to get a 3-point weekly edition of one.
no Raptors talk.
Like Gabe is the most famous guy from Middletown, Ohio, and he doesn't have the Prime sponsorship yet. Like, we just need to get that done.
Needs to happen.
That's crazy.
I tweeted that and it had like 10 likes within like an hour. And I'm like, I don't think anybody gets the joke except for Devin, who liked it. I'm like, I don't think anybody else gets the joke. But okay.
Bunch of Luke Kennard haters, like.
No, it literally, it having like, I opened Twitter and I saw that tweet with 9 likes instantly, and I was like, what? Somebody said, number 1 is. Yeah, no idea, man.
Pelicans are definitely a weird team. I don't know. They're like Kings, like level of. They're good. Somewhere around there.
Yeah, they're fine. They're going to continue to be good. I don't see much upside, but they're fine. They're going to keep making the playoffs, assuming they're healthy.
Willie Green got a hooping as always.
Yeah, they're good enough to definitely do that. I'm glad to see Zion's been healthy, but he doesn't look like he's playing like he's Zion still. Which
You think that's on purpose, so he stays healthy? You think his
kind of
play
do
style?
think it's like that. I kind of think it is like that. I also think he looked really out of shape coming into the season. And maybe that's still trying to level out and everything, but I think it's a little combination of maybe he doesn't want to overexert himself. It's interesting, but it's like it's either we get this where he's playing most nights, but he's not 27 on 60% shooting, or we get 29 games of Zion where he's looking like an all-NBA caliber player, but you only get him for the first 29 games of the year. It's like, got to pick a side, I guess.
Yeah,
he's only missed 11 games this year, so I mean.
And I don't think any of those really been like injury. I just think they're being a little precautious.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember us having conversations this summer where it's like, you'll take 70, 75% of Zion if you can have him for the year. So, I mean, if this is what it results in, and they can actually make the playoffs and not have to even dangle with the play-in if they can stay where they're at, then you'll take that.
That's what I said before the season. I'm like, hey, you just want to see him and Ingram in April. That's what's important. That's Willie Green will get it done.
He's a hell of a coach, man. And he can still dunk. Shout out to Willie.
I was sold on him so fast, bro. All it took was literally the first game that he was coaching the Pelicans that was on national TV. Bro, it went to like the huddle. And bro, I just heard him talk in the huddle one time, and I'm like, yeah, he just has the aura's just there. He has it factor as a coach.
Just sounds like a coach. He just sounds like a coach, man. Like every time you hear him talk, just like that's a coach right there. Definitely a coach. It helps that he was in the league for like a decade plus too.
Definitely.
And he saw a little bit of everything. Like he was in a whole bunch of different locker rooms, played with a bunch of different stars, played under a bunch of different good coaches. I think he was in Philly, so he was with good teams, with bad teams, with the Clippers. I think he was in New Orleans for a time. He's seen a lot. Seen a lot in the league. I just realized BI's only missed like 4 games this year too.
Yeah, he's been very available.
So they've been healthy, man. He only played 45 last year, 55 the year before.
Yeah, they've had injuries to role players in and out, but the main guys have been healthy.
That's the best you can wish for, honestly. I hate that Dyson got hurt, but luckily they got depth though.
Yeah,
I mean, being 30, Trey Murphy having 30 games under his belt, like 50 or so in. I mean, I thought he was going to be out way longer. So
that's what they said. CJ's missed a little more time, but At least he's been good. He was so weird last year.
Yeah, he was.
Bad for his standards, honestly, just like efficiency wise.
Valanciunas played every game. Dang.
Yeah, JV.
Yeah,
be
Travis
playing.
Kelce don't miss time, man.
Oh my god.
Half the time JV's missed time in his career, it's been stupid hand injuries. Like
Yeah.
for a big man, he's been very available.
Did y'all see? They were in talks for DeJounte, but they didn't want to trade Herb Jones.
Yeah,
That was allegedly a rumor.
saw that. Which good call because DeJounte on that team would be terrible. Like,
Him and CJ are
Bi
just so
and Zion
redundant.
already with spacing is not the most seamless fit. Throw DeJounte in
Yes.
there, that'd get really ugly.
Stats just lie sometimes, bro. Like Zion being a 36% 3-point shooter is so funny. Like you look at the attempts, it's
Probably has
like
what, like
it's
4 or 5 attempts?
bro. He literally averages 0.3 attempts a game. Like there's zero volume, but you'll catch somebody one day. Somebody one day on Twitter will say, "Bro, Zion's low key a shooter, 36%."
I wish he would take like. This is how I feel about like Sabonis too. I wish they would just take like one, like two a night, or like, shoot for 2 a game.
He would if he
If you
took
missed,
one a night. I mean,
if you miss both of them, then fuck it, don't shoot anymore. But if you make one, think about shooting another. I love that.
To Sabonis' credit, he's shooting 1.1 this year and shooting 42.6% from 3.
Exactly. I wish he would shoot
So,
one more.
one more,
Even if it
perfect.
drops to like 37, I would love it.
Yeah, it just
Go ahead.
opens up the offense so much more.
Yes. And it's like teams got to think a little bit like remember when Valanciunas was shooting like 3 a night and he was making them? Just made you think like, should we contest? And then next thing you know, he made 7 because he just kept leaving them open.
bro, Matt Ryan playoff minutes are about to be crazy when they're dying for spacing.
They shouldn't be though because they got Trey Murphy, Jordan Hawkins. If Matt Ryan's on the floor, somebody's hurt. Multiple guys might be hurt.
I don't know. Time will tell. I'm just saying.
That's such a weird team, man. Would you want to see them in the playoff series? Like, how confident would you be?
Oh, absolutely.
Are they the top 8 or the top 16 that you're looking at? Like, we'll take them.
Probably.
Yes.
Probably.
They haven't won a playoff series with the score. I'm definitely taking that.
This would be Zion's first ever playoff games.
There's probably some people that would make the argument they're the team you want to play out of the top 10 seeds in the West.
Yeah, I do see people still giving like Lakers Warriors benefits of the doubt. Honestly, give me those. I want to see both of those guys. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
That is very valid.
I saw or I heard a weird stat like the Lakers are better with Anthony Davis off the floor defensively. And like you said, Gabe, numbers be lying a little bit.
Bro.
Yeah, that is a
Numbers
crazy
be
number.
capping.
I don't care how that number is acquired. There's just no way. Well, before we wrap things up, I got a bit of trivia to throw your guys' way.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to play as a team or if you want to play against each other.
Let's team up, man. We're a little rusty.
Teaming up it is.
Team up.
Okay.
Team up.
So I will list 2 players. I have 10 sets of 2 players. You will name me the player that is averaging more points per game during the course of this season. The first 2 players are Kobe White and RJ Barrett.
Talk to me, Gabe. How has RJ been playing since he's been a Raptor? I think Kobe's around like 19. Kobe's around like 19.
I feel like RJ's a cool like 18 a game.
Kobe's at like either 18.9 or he just crossed 19.
I think Kobe might be a little bit higher.
We'll go with
I
Kobe.
feel like RJ is about 18. So I'm gonna go with Kobe as well.
I agree with that. Let's go.
Okay, Kobe is correct. Kobe is currently averaging 19.6 points per game. RJ is at 19.2.
Oh, RJ went up a little bit. I thought he was right at like 18.3 or something. Like
He's been hooping. He's been working his way up.
Okay.
Next two players, Denny Avdia and Duncan Robinson.
Don't count on
Danny's
me to
been
know
crazy
what
lately.
Washington.
Duncan was averaging like 13 last time I checked.
If he's averaging 13,
Do we think Danny's passed 13 with just
No,
a few weeks of
I
scoring
don't.
really well?
I don't. If you think Duncan's at 13, I think that's enough to be the winner here.
This was the last time I checked, and I don't even remember the last time I checked, but it was a decent chunk into the season. I haven't seen Heat fans say Duncan's been slumping or bad or anything. I've seen more good propaganda. I'm cool locking Duncan. I'm cool with locking Duncan.
Let's lock Duncan.
Okay, Duncan is averaging 13.3 points per game. Denny Avdia is averaging 13.8. Denny was the correct answer.
That 2-week tax, man, averaging 24 the last 10. Fuck. Okay.
Denny has indeed been hooping. Next two players are Chris Middleton and Jordan Clarkson.
My gut just wants to go Clarkson.
I want to go Clarkson too.
We locking it in?
Yeah, let's lock in Clarkson.
Okay, that is correct. This was one of the more free ones of the list. Jordan Clarkson is at 17.3. Chris Middleton is at 14.8.
Oh, I didn't even think Clarkson was. I was thinking Clarkson was like 15, but okay, I'll take that.
Next two are Jaden Ivey and Malik Monk.
Okay,
Jaden Ivey was not getting minutes forever.
Malik, I just saw it earlier because I was looking up for when we were doing a start bench cut. He's at 15.1. Do we think Ivey's averaging more than that after a month of getting real playing time? He's had some big games over that stretch too.
I feel like he might be at 16, bro.
He's had some big games in this last like month too, man.
I really feel like it might be Jaden Ivey after all of that.
He has to be averaging at least 15.2 to be there. So it's not even thinking 16. Just he could be at like 15.3. You want to go Ivy?
I was an Ivy fan since Purdue, man. I gotta stick with him.
Okay, well, let's lock Ivy.
Let's lock Ivy.
15.3 was a hell of a guess for Ivy because that's where he's at. And that is a win because Malik Monk, as you remembered correctly, is at 15.1.
Let's go. That's close, though. I didn't know if Ivy was back up there because he's barely playing the first month or so.
And he's been hooping, and enough of those games he just didn't play in, so it didn't hurt the average. So just kept him up. Next two players are Jalen Suggs and Scoot Henderson.
Okay, they're both around. I looked up Scoot recently. He was at like 12.4 maybe. Suggs was around that early on in the season. And the Magic have been playing worse. But Paolo ain't been playing worse. Franz, when he's been out there, ain't been playing worse. I gotta assume Suggs took a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, I feel like none of those Magic guards are probably above like 13. So
I'm cool with Scoot if you are.
yeah, I think Scoot is probably past Suggs by now.
It's probably barely, but he was around 12.4 when I checked. So I'm cool with that.
You were correct. Jalen Suggs is not above 13. He is at 12.3. Scoot Henderson currently sits at 12.9. So that is correct.
We're cooking.
For the first five, very well done. The next two is Kevin Huerter and Daniel Gafford.
Oh, Hurd's been kind of ass. Gaff, I think, is around like 10.7 ish. He might be up to 11 now. Herder. He's been ass this year, bro. Add him to the surprise negative list.
Is he single digits ass?
I mean, he could be a 10.1. He could be a 10.1 guy. You got to think. De'Aaron, best scoring year of his career. Sabonis is up over 20. Keegan's gotten better as the seasons went on compared to Kevin Herter. And we just talked about Malik Monk averaging 15. Like, he can't be that high.
You're kind of on to something.
I'm cool locking Gafford, man. I'm cool. I know Gaff's around. He was 10.7 when I checked at the deadline. So
Dallas was on this contender or pretender list for a reason. Gafford, needle mover. That's the lock.
Big Gaff.
Kevin Herter sits at 10.8. Thankfully for you guys, Gafford is not at 10.7. He is at 11.1.
Okay, he bumped it up a little bit. Yes.
The Gaff.
Remember when Jim Boylan just didn't call timeout when he was like dead on the floor? That's why Gafford is elevating now, because Jim Boylan didn't care about him.
Who were they against, bro? Was it against San Antonio? I feel like Pop called the timeout or something.
I'm about to look that up after.
I know the opposing coach like purposely called the timeout so they would check on him.
That's a good question. I'll look that up afterwards.
Next two players, back into some star players to compare. We got Anthony Edwards against Jalen Brunson.
It's Brunson. Ant's at like 25.4. Brunson's like been moving up. I think he's around 27.
I think Ant's like 26.4 and Brunson's like 27.3.
He might be 26.4. You might be right. But yeah, Brunson's 27 for sure.
Yeah.
Brunson is indeed the correct choice. He is at 27.6. Anthony Edwards is at 26.3.
God, 27.6. He's having his Isaiah Thomas year. I saw somebody say that earlier.
Definitely a crazy year from Brunson so far. Staying with another two stars out in the West this time, we have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Ingram.
I just looked at BI's. He was at 21.
I feel like it might be Jaren, just because why would you throw this question at us? Like,
do you think
Brandon Ingram is a known scorer?
But we know BI hasn't been like elite this year.
Yeah,
and you would probably think like Jaren's not playing with anybody, so maybe his numbers are boosted. But for some reason, I feel like Jaren's at like 20.8 or something like that.
I haven't watched like any Memphis.
Plus, you begin the GG Jackson games. Who else is on that? I don't know, but you begin the GG Jackson games. He's been getting a lot of points, a lot of shots.
Jaren has some terrible nights on offense too.
He's also has some massive nights too, like 39s, a couple 40 balls. I feel like BI might be like a shade ahead, like 0.1 points ahead.
You feel really confident in BI. I'm a little more hesitant, but I'll walk with you.
I know for sure BI is at 21 because I just saw it.
I know. It's like 21.3 or something.
Yes, low 21s. I don't know if Jaren's averaging more than that.
I'll walk with you, man.
Walk with me. Let's go. Walk with me.
Go BI.
BI is locked in. He is averaging 21.4. Jaren is averaging 22.3 this season.
Oh, no.
That's on me, man. That's on me. Dang.
This is not the right occasion to walk with Reek.
Okay, that's on me. Okay, Jaren been balling. Maybe I should have went with that logic. He ain't playing with nobody. Baines missed a lot of time. Smart's missed a lot of time. Derrick Rose has missed time. Ja's only played 9 games. Like, maybe I should have just trusted that.
Derrick Rose. Bro, what year is it?
Big 2024.
I wish we had Garrett. I need Garrett in chat right now.
I was saying that Mills was still in chat.
We had
He would've
a
said
lot
something.
of Donovan Mitchell talk too. We need a Garrett for
Facts.
that.
He would have loved that.
Definitely. Okay, we got 2 more. Still got a chance for 8 out of 10. The next 2 players are Terry Rozier and Franz Wagner.
Okay. He's been hurt recently, but before that he played like 6-7 games. He didn't play that much in Miami. He also missed a lot of time to start the season. So those lower games in Miami probably dipped his scoring a lot. He didn't really have I don't think he had a lot of big nights with the Heat because they were playing awful. Franz started out kind of slow. He picked it up. He missed some time too. I'm not sure. I think Franz is around like 20.
The Magic
Low
generally
20s.
aren't a high scoring team though. So like
Yeah, I think he's around 20
well
though.
for them.
I think he's around 20.
I feel like Terry might be in the 20s though.
He still might be, even though, yeah.
There's no way he's played that many games in Miami.
I feel like it's only been like 7 or 8. It hasn't been a lot. He got traded a couple weeks before the deadline. He played some games and he got hurt against Boston the last time they played.
I'm very much leaning Terry here. I'll say that.
Okay, I'll walk with you. Let's go, Terry.
Okay, all right.
Okay, they are walking with Gabe this time. They are both averaging in the 20s. Rozier is at 20.6. Franz Wagner is at 20.9.
Oh no!
Terry dipped a lot, bro. My goodness.
He did.
He was at like 24 when he got traded.
He's definitely not been putting up crazy numbers in Miami yet.
He's been stinking, apparently. That's a 4-point dip.
Yeah, in Charlotte, he was averaging 23.
Last 5 games are 13, 13, 18, 17, and 15 for Rozier.
Damn, it's scary.
All right, you guys got one last chance to redeem yourselves here to end things off. We got a classic 3-point weekly matchup here. We got Wendell Carter Jr. and Yusuf Nurkic.
Bro in chat earlier, Bento said Nurkic has been playing good.
I think it's Nurk.
And Wendell missed time. He's been a backup.
Bro, it's gotta be Nurk. I'm standing on business. It's Nurk.
Maybe Dev is using this to say Nurk still ain't him.
No, he's
Like
not.
maybe this is he's not even averaging more than somebody that's coming off the bench.
I'm standing on business today.
Okay, well, let's break down points. Phoenix's offense is really good. I think Grayson's averaging 15.5. Book's at 27, Gabe?
I believe so.
KD's around that too. Like KD's up there too. Beal's at like 17, I think is what I saw. Or something like that. Maybe 18.
Allen's probably like 12 or 13.
Nah, Grayson's at like 15.
15. Damn.
Yeah, he been hooping. So who we think? I don't know what Wendell's averaging, but I feel like last season he wasn't averaging a crazy amount. He was starting. This year, coming off the bench, not playing as much, was injured some. This might be a really down year. To where I've been seeing people talking about maybe they get rid of him, move off of him. Maybe Wendell's at like 9.9 or something like that.
I think Wendell being at 10 to 12 might be real, but I think Nurk got a nice 12 a night in him. Who else is Phoenix running at center like that?
I can see Wendell being like no more than like 11.5. I could see Nurk being at 12.
Like the Magic aren't a good offense. Phoenix is a good offense, and I feel like he's getting all the easy buckets from Book and KD drawing doubles. I want to go Nurk, bro. I think Devin is throwing us this on purpose.
Okay. He would probably think like, okay. Let's go with Big Nurk, man. Big Nurk.
Both players are averaging 11 points per game. Nurk at the 11.8 and Wendell at 11.4. They're
Come on,
closing
man. Come on, man. How are they talking this week?
I feel like I've not heard anything from Wendell in a long time. So
It's been quiet out there. It's been dark days for the Wendell supporters.
That's
maybe he's
your
a Raptor.
Maybe he's a Raptor, man. I would not be complaining.
They got your man's. Averaging
They
less
got
than
your
Dirk. That's your man's.
They got him.
Did you see what they got him for?
My homie, and he says that in the group chat like every other day. That shit is hilarious. He tried to say Doc was my man. So I'm like, no, sir. No.
They got your man.
Doc is not my guy. He is not my guy. Damn.
Well, for coming back after the hiatus and claiming there would be some casual take, 70% on the trivia. We'll take that as a solid showing.
Which ones did we miss? We missed. God, I don't remember.
We missed
Rozier and Franz. You missed Jaren Jackson Jr. and BI. And you missed Danny and Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, okay. I'm okay with the Denny and Duncan one. That's fine.
Denny, I'm not mad. Terry, that was I think you had us on the right track with him dipping in Miami, and I led us astray. But you were really set on BI too. So I
was so set on BI. Shout out to Jaren, man. I didn't think he was hooping like that. I didn't know he was.
Slow start, but then he started hooping.
Should have known. He had a couple 40s back to back. I should have known he was hooping. We'll take it.
Well, solid showing on the return. We'll always like to finish it off with a good bit of trivia, but 3 hours deep, I think it is a good time to call it a night. For all of those people that have supported throughout our stream, we do appreciate all the support on our return, and we will look forward to continuing next week. That being said, we hope you guys have a good rest of your week. If you have not yet, be sure to hit a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.